Hello and welcome to the Con Couple. I'm Spotted Richard.
I got my name stolen this weekend, so talk about that later.
Yeah, and we go to far too many cons every year.
I'm annoyed that you messed up the intro this time.
In what way did I mess it up?
You haven't said your actual name.
I said my name.
That's fair.
I just had an extra thing in front of it this time.
I guess we'll keep my name a mystery, or at least force anyone else to listen to one of the other episodes if you happen to have met me at this con. As we're discovering in the furry community, we're becoming kind of notorious for not having consistent names.
Yeah, well, again, because, as we mentioned in the past, because fur cons let you put anything you want on your badge, because a lot of people have fursonas, you like putting jokes on my badge.
Yeah, so Spotted Richard was the joke this time. If you don't get that, I'm not going to explain it to you.
Yeah, look at British desserts, you'll figure it out.
And I put Odette on my badge this weekend as kind of, I guess, a name for people to call me to try out. I immediately already hated it, and it got stolen by somebody. Long story. So, yeah, I'll be a different bitch in my name next time.
Yep.
But before we get any further, we probably should talk about our friend Iggy a little bit.
Yes.
Who is still looking for a kid name. We mentioned this in our Anthrocon episode. We'll mention it again now.
Yes, so Iggy has been looking for a kidney for a while. They had a donor lined up, things were going well, and then just before Anthrocon, their donor had to back out for medical reasons. Basically, as part of the screening process, they found something, which meant that it might not have been safe for them to donate. So, back to square one, unfortunately. And there's not a massive amount of time left relative to when Iggy needs their kidney. So, all of the information is on iggyland.org.
Yes. And we'll link that in the show notes. They did say that they have some people who are going through the process now, but again, there's no guarantee that any of those people are going to work out.
Yep.
And it's something for which, obviously, if you're even remotely curious, you can back out at any point. And an added benefit that I don't think a lot of people talk about is that they do a full medical markup of you when you go through kidney donation, which does mean you're getting a lot of screenings for stuff for free. Now, obviously, you shouldn't do that, then immediately back out. That would be a horrible thing to do.
That would be extremely unethical, but
one benefit to you of just even going through the process if you're remotely curious and are kind of undecided on it is that you would get a full medical evaluation of yourself, and that would let you know if there's any problems in your own life that you needed to take care of, which is pretty cool. And if then you did get that information and legitimately decided not to make that choice because you found medical problems, no one would bother you. So yeah, again, Iggy's very respectful of the fact that a lot of people can't donate for a lot of reasons. And as somebody who went through the very beginning stages of this process and was ruled out at the questionnaire stage, pretty much all you have to do is sign up with an account. The link on iggy.org will send you to basically iggyland.org will send you to basically University of Michigan or Michigan's basic healthcare system. It's the exact same, interestingly, as the Ohio system that I use for my stuff, just Michigan. So I had to make a new account for that. You go in, you fill in your medical information, and then they call you, and if you're a viable candidate, then you'll have to do blood tests and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's not one, so I didn't expect to be, but I'm glad I went through the process just to have them verify that I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And there are apparently about 4 stages, which kind of starts with that questionnaire, that initial contact, then there's blood tests, then there's additional tests, and so on and so forth, which is why at this point, anybody who signed up right after Anthrocon will not yet know if they are a viable donor or not, because it just takes a little time.
And keep in mind, even if you're if one of those donors, and I'm crossing my fingers, is viable, if you went through this process, you could still be a backup, because the last donor, they found a kidney stone last minute. So having a backup donor would be really great for that. And even if you're not donating to Iggy, there are tons of other people on the kidney waiting list. So if Iggy does happen to get a kidney and then you're cleared and you decide you still want to donate, I'm sure there are thousands upon thousands of candidates who would love that gift.
Yeah.
So that's our promotion for that.
Yep.
We know we have a very small listener population, but it only takes that one person. So.
Exactly. So, where were we? We should actually mention the specific con.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's labeled on the episode. If they don't know that, I feel like they can't read.
Granted, maybe somebody's just listening to this in the background and isn't paying attention.
Maybe it's Citrine.
Wow, we're starting strong.
I'm sure Citrine has device that probably lets them read the episode title.
They do. They showed it to us, remember?
I do. We went to that panel. We'll review that later.
We will talk about that panel.
And eventually you'll understand why that joke was as offensive as it was.
Yep. It's fine. So, this week we were at Indy Fur Con, which was a furry convention in Indianapolis. Indiana?
Yes.
Hey, I got the state right. This is the problem with being English. You are constantly messing with me about which state we're in.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was IFC in Indianapolis. One thing I would say about furry cons is they have a lot of freaking acronyms for all of their stuff. So there's MMFC, which is Motor City Fur Con. There's MMFC, which is Midwest Fur Fest. There's AC, which is AnthroCon. Look, I like your acronyms. As somebody who's new to kind of furry cons, it's a little confusing at times because they're all very similar. Most of them have C just for con at the end, and it gets really confusing.
Most of them also have F in there somewhere.
Yeah, I know, and it's just like really confusing.
It takes time to say like the entire name of the convention. It's easier to shorten it to an acronym.
But all of the acronyms are extremely similar.
Yep. So we've been asked if we went to MCFC, and I'm like, yeah, we did do MCFC. We did Motor City Furry Con.
We did not do MMC, is that right? Midwest Fur Fest?
Presumably that's MW.
No, the W's silent. I looked this up.
Oh, MFF.
Yeah, MFF. That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've not done MFF.
For the record, this is a old man yells at cloud problem. This is not like an actual criticism we have of furry cons.
No, it's just occasionally it's fun to complain about like incredibly minor things.
But we also want to be positive to the people in this episode, and we understand this is just like an in-community thing. So
again, it's just something you get used to over time.
as a reminder, we're not explaining what a furry is because this is like the 4th Furry Con episode.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it will be our last probably until next year because.
What kind of out of furry cons to go to?
The next one that would even be remotely viable is Midwest Fur Fest, and that's in Chicago, and it's also opposite Galaxy Con, and it's the week of finals.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a very likely option this December for us, as much as we would like to go.
Yeah, it's kind of too far. It's A, a little bit too far. B, there's a con that, like Galaxy Con isn't one of our favorite cons. It's aggressively fine, but it is in our favorite convention center that's like an hour drive from our home, which makes it very, very easy to go to, and therefore a lot cheaper. Because again, if we wanted to do something in Chicago, that would involve a hotel room or an Airbnb or so on and so forth, and that drives up the cost massively right off the get-go. So this probably will be our last Fur Con of the year.
Yeah, which is sad. I had a lot of fun this weekend. And yeah, although if we did go to Chicago, we could stay in that weird Airbnb we did for Con Alt Delete that one time where that didn't turn the heat on. And every time you messaged him, he would turn the heat on, but turn it up like 1 degree.
Yeah, he would knock it up a degree or two.
Yeah, so it started at like 40, and I think we got it up to like the mid-50s. I don't ever think we really got it past there.
No, it was freezing in that Airbnb. Because that was the middle of winter.
We also had to unplug all the plug sockets before we left, so like the microscopic amount of like electricity the microwave was using was when it was just plugged in would not use that amount of electricity.
It had a digital clock on the front. Those draw a lot of power. Airbnbs suck. That's what we're saying.
The one this weekend was the same as all of the ones we stay at, which is the cheapest one we could find, which meant it was a foreclosed home that somebody fixed up shoddily.
Again, it was
The Airbnb owner also thought it was your daughter, so that was cool.
I'm not convinced that was the Airbnb owner. I think that was just the neighbor. But either way.
Well, like, that neighbor wasn't home all weekend and then was just like randomly smoking on the porch when we left. It was weird.
Again, people are allowed to be in and out of their homes at times they want. Also, we got back at like midnight both days.
We got back at 2 one day.
It was only 1, but yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, should we talk about the venue a little bit?
Yeah, so this is our first time in this venue because we have done other cons in Indianapolis, but they've all been at the Indy Convention Center. See our Gen Con episode for that.
Yep.
Also WeebCon and PopCon Indy.
Yeah.
This one was at a smaller convention near the airport.
Yes, specifically the Wyndham Hotel right by the airport. So Wyndham Airport, whatever. Wyndham Indianapolis Airport, I believe, is how it's officially listed if you are searching for it in Google Maps.
It is very much a hotel by the airport convention center that's clearly designed for people who want to like fly people in to have a convention, but want to do it fairly cheaply. For like businesses and stuff like that, so that just keep everyone close to the airport, so no one has to rent cars.
Yeah. And again, as convention spaces go, this was not the best we've been in, but also definitely not the worst. Like,
And we have talked about this before. We do understand that with cons, like, unless you want to move your con to another city, your options are pretty limited in terms of what spaces can hold you, that have available dates, that are stuff you can afford.
yes. And again, with anything, especially with regards to a slightly smaller convention, it is always going to come back to budget. Because for this one, this is a relatively small furry convention.
And we're horrible at guessing numbers, in part because, again, venues tend to... How big a convention feels depends on the size of a venue. Like, this amount of people in the Indianapolis Convention Center
would feel like next to nothing.
Yeah, that would probably be similar to what We've Fun Indy was, maybe a little bit more people, but not that much more.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it would feel like a lot less. Whereas here, it feels like a decent amount. So
yeah.
It's probably a similar size to Anthro, Ohio. And when I did check their numbers, because Furry Cons do track, it was similar size to that, which is a couple thousand people.
Yeah, that feels about right. So yeah. So the particular way the space was laid out was relatively straightforward. If you went in the main entrance of the hotel, there was also an entrance around in the kind of like convention part. Then again, kind of that sort of U shape that goes around their sort of main hall area that was being used as, that was where secondary events was. The Headless Lounge was over there, a couple of panel rooms, their tabletop gaming space, and then on the other side of the U shape was where they had their main event space. Mm-hmm. So again, pretty standard hotel convention space, couple of ballrooms that could be subdivided into smaller spaces, and then some individual panel rooms. And I think I have two noticeable complaints about this space. One of which is the air conditioning was really inconsistent.
Yeah, impressively bad.
You would walk from one corridor into another, and suddenly the temperature would change by about 20 degrees.
Which, keep in mind, for Furry Cons is particularly problematic because you have a lot of people suiting, so you need to make sure that they're keeping their bodies at comfortable temperatures. They did have a Headless Lounge. We can't review the Headless Lounge because neither of us are fursuiters. I don't know how cold it was in there. I assume it probably was cold, so go on the con for that. Yep. But that's just not something we can personally review.
Yeah.
Because we're not supposed to go into it as non-fursuiters, and we respect that rule.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, there is a fairly simple rule on Headless Lounges. It's if you're in a suit, you can use it, or if you're the handler of a person in a suit, you can use it. Mm-hmm. We are neither of those, so we don't. But we know it existed. But yeah, so there were a few spaces that were definitely, the artist alley in particular was weirdly warm. And so they actually had sort of box fans set up next to it to try and cool it off a little bit. Mm-hmm. Again, I want to specify, this is not on the con, this is on the con space.
And cons, again, have to choose their spaces based on what's offered to them and what they can afford. So.
Yeah. And yeah, it wasn't catastrophic in any way.
No, I felt mostly fine all weekend. Yeah. It was just the air conditioning, and I think some of the panel rooms was your other complaints were a little bit small.
Yeah, my other complaint was just going to be basically panel rooms 2, 3, and 4 were definitely a bit on the small side. Whereas main events, secondary events, and tertiary events, I think were all fine in terms of what was in them relative to the amount of space they had. In fact, most of the time those rooms didn't fill. So I think
they did for the more popular events like Fursuit Dance Competition, but we tend not to go to that event, so I can't report.
But yeah, so for the most part, those rooms were great. It was just the smaller panel rooms with, a couple of them were definitely pushing the fire safety code, let's just say. Which again, we get, you are limited by what is available.
And it does make the space a little bit less accessible. I know that's something the con is really caring about right now and trying to fix. Those spaces, I think, just generally are having some problems with accessibility right now. And I don't know if the convention can really solve any problems with the smaller rooms other than to just, because the problem with not having them at all means there's just less stuff on, and that's just sad.
Yep.
So, between the options of using the smaller panel rooms and knowing they're going to be overcrowded and not using them at all, I think I do prefer them to use them.
I think so.
it's just one of those things where I wish the con had a little bit bigger spaces, and those aren't even spaces you can convert into bigger panel rooms, because with some conventions they'll have sliding doors where you can maneuver rooms around.
Yeah.
With those panel rooms, you can't, just because they're small and they don't have any maneuverable walls. So
Yeah.
You couldn't combine two small panel rooms to make a bigger one.
Yeah, it wasn't like you could have taken panel room 2 and panel room 3 and turned them into one bigger panel room 2. It was just...
There might be a little bit of Tetris you could do with some of the bigger rooms, but I'm sure that's also running into problems a little bit.
Again, a lot of... it's basically a case of, I don't think there is a better solution than the one they had, other than finding a completely new venue, and that's probably not viable.
Yeah. Based on what we heard, and we will talk about this a little bit later, they did have some other venues in the past. I think this, of the venues they have, is kind of their best option right now.
Which, again, is fair. Like, all cons are working within limitations, you work with what you've got, and that's fine. Like, it's mostly just a case of, these are the mild, like, when these are the biggest, like, problems we had over the weekend, we had a good weekend.
Yeah.
Like, we do want to clarify that.
And I will say there actually was a decent amount of seating around the convention center for a convention center of the size.
This is true. A lot of couches, a lot of sofas, some tables. Tabletop gaming was busy all weekend. We did not even attempt to.
Yeah, tabletop gaming was also in an fairly small space. And the con theme this weekend was somewhat, I suppose, fittingly, since we did Gen Con, then we did another D&D themed steampunk con. This one was also D&D themed. Yes,
this was Roll Fur Initiative, with fur spelled F-U-R.
Yep.
Bloody furries and their puns. This is the problem. They like puns almost as much as you do.
Almost as much.
Almost as much.
So yeah, that's the layout of the space. We don't stay on site, as we mentioned before, so we can't review the hotel space or like how good the elevators look. I will say they did have signs in the elevators for priority access, the con did, which I did like a lot.
Yes, that was a nice touch that we did not know. Again, we had a little bit of a wander today, and we ended up over near the elevator bank or the lift bank, and we did notice that there was a sign up basically saying, please give first priority to anybody who is disabled or in need of that special access, then give priority to fursuiters, and then to everybody else, which was nice, useful signage to have. Like, it's not signage we needed, because to us that's kind of obvious, but
it might not be if it's your first Fur Con.
Yeah.
And as somebody in a ball gown, generally I do appreciate like stuff like that. Yeah. Elevator economy is not really something we talk about on this podcast, although I do think it is an important element of cons, is how well their elevators work.
Yeah.
Because typically you need them if you're staying on site in the hotel to get back up and down from your hotel room. Since you normally stay off site, we're typically only on the first floor or first couple floors of a convention center. And to the extent that we need to get up and down, we just walk.
Yeah.
And that one time when we were at a con where stuff was on the first floor and the 7th floor, we just walked.
We still walked.
We walked, yeah.
Because again, the queues for the lifts of that one were problematic, but
which I think is a probably pretty common problem for cons. We just don't notice because we don't use elevators all that often.
Yeah.
None of us like them. They freak us out.
Yeah, I saw far too many like movies where like bombs get planted on elevator cables when I was a kid.
I've been stuck in elevators multiple times. It's not a fun feeling. So it's just a little bit like not great generally, so I tend to avoid them. Plus I'm in a giant ball gown and I'm just way too much room, and like
it makes you feel awkward.
But it's not a con problem, it's just a us problem.
Yeah.
I'm glad you also fear elevators though.
Yeah.
Like I am glad to be bonded in life with somebody who also fears elevators.
Again, I don't like actively.
I
just don't like them.
I don't like them either.
But yeah. So moving on from our hatred of lifts, is that a good time to talk about the disability service or the dignity service?
Well, why don't we do that in order, because we did that the next day. I guess we can briefly talk about parking, which is just parking was free next to the hotel, and it seemed adequate.
It seemed okay. They were definitely running up against, like, when we were getting there on a morning, there was usually enough spots. By the time we were leaving on the evening, there was basically no parking left, so get there early.
Yeah.
It would be my advice for this one.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who couldn't find parking. I didn't see anyone parked in like weird places, so I assume for the most part it's adequate.
Yeah. And again, there are a bunch of other hotels around there, so you could probably pull a bit of a sneaky park across the road. And
I doubt anyone checks. It's largely free.
Because again, it's a busy area right next to the airport. They're going to be expecting, a lot of kind of short-term, parking. But yeah, so again, parking perfectly functional. I did end up having to drop you off this morning just because it was raining.
And it took you like 2 seconds to get in after me, so it was fine.
But again, otherwise it's been a bit.
And obviously, rain is not the fault of the con.
No, we do not hold slightly janky weather against the con.
So, do you want to get into chronological stuff now, or do you want to review food first?
I might as well talk about the food.
Okay.
Food availability at this con was actually pretty good for the most part. There were various options. So they had a couple of food trucks. Well, they had a food truck all the days, and then I also noticed there was an ice cream truck as we were leaving today, which I hadn't noticed previous days. I didn't have the chance to try anything from there because on the day I was going to, it rained again, and I was just like, I'll be fine. But they actually had a pretty good concession stand as well. Wasn't anything fancy, chicken tenders, burgers, the usual kind of stuff, but they were actually pretty good chicken tenders.
As a reminder, if this is your first episode, I can't eat food because my stomach hates me. Mm-hmm. Long story, so he reviews the food.
Yeah. For anybody who's deeply concerned by that sentence, she can eat food, just you only eat it like once a day.
Yeah, I don't really like to get into the specifics of like why and how because it's complicated, weird, and stupid. Just part of my disability.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, pretty good availability of food throughout the weekend. Always like to see that at a convention. And the concession stand, little overpriced, but not awfully. Like $8 for some pretty decent chicken tenders. I could live with that. I think I've just been broken by places like the Pittsburgh Convention Center, where that would have cost me probably about $20 as opposed to $8.
Yeah, the prices seem vaguely reasonable, or at least sort of pre-pandemic, I would say.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the lunch we had a little bit later.
Yes, I was probably going to talk about that specifically when we talk about that day. But I did actually try the on-site restaurant, which is, again, just the hotel's on-site restaurant. But we'll talk about that when we...
I will say the hotel did seem generally a little bit overwhelmed because I don't think it's a hotel that does that much business other than this particular convention. Like, not badly overwhelmed, just it seemed like the hotel wasn't used to having that many people in it on a consistent basis.
Yes, it does feel like they probably needed a few more staff in certain departments. Like, some of them were really working.
Yes, and I want to be clear, staff was great.
Yes.
It's just they probably aren't used to having this many people.
Yeah, they probably needed a few more of them. Which, again, hopefully they'll realize that for next year if this convention's back here next year.
And yeah, I think it's just one of those things with airport hotels generally, which is their primary business is just people who got stuck on a layover, who are just staying overnight, or whose flight was canceled and stuff like that. Yeah. So,
or even people who knew that they got in late at night, they're going out early morning, so they booked a room at the nearest cheapest place. So I suspect that is a decent chunk of their business, yes. Which again is fair. That is a very important thing to have near an airport. Mm-hmm.
So you want to get into chronological stuff now?
Yeah, I think so.
And as a reminder, as we're shouting out people, we generally don't tend to use people's full names without their permission, but we will use people's personas because that's not their real name.
Yep.
Unless they change their name, or they're like you, their persona just was their real name this weekend. But whatever. We're assuming personas are okay. We will try to use general pronouns in most cases.
Yeah.
And we'll probably try to use they, them to the extent that we can.
We generally try to, because some people we do specifically know their pronouns. If we don't, we try to default to they, them.
Also, full disclosure, we're horrible at remembering names, just generally. So if we're just like, that person, I apologize to you.
Yeah. Sorry.
And as we've mentioned, I think on this podcast before, part of the problem is people come up to us at cons, having seen us at other cons, and for them, this is their next convention, and for us, we've gone to 6 conventions since that convention, and we're like, I do not remember which convention you were at. I am so sorry.
So somebody said hello to us having met us at a catacon last year. That was in November.
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody we met. Well, I remember
some of the people we met, and it's not I will say I remember a lot more people in terms of faces than I do just names generally.
Yeah.
One person at he said that last weekend was also at TrotCon, which is not even a connection I would have pegged.
Yeah, I would not have expected that, but good on them.
Good on them. We support other con surfers.
Yeah.
Also, con surfers would have been a way better name for this podcast.
The Con Couple is a decent enough title. It serves its function.
But it makes it sound like we're conning people.
No, it doesn't.
What?
We're driving over roads in Indiana, therefore I'm in pain.
Yeah, that is one critique we have with the state of Indiana, who likes to throw shade at Ohio a lot.
Yeah, your road maintenance sucks, guys.
Yeah, comparatively. Which is weird, because everyone has to drive through your state to get literally anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I think they're just upset about that fact, and they're trying to make the process as unpleasant as possible. So, anywho.
Also, the first place we pass going in and out of Indiana from Ohio, just based on our highway, is Uranus, Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Which has a very famous fudge factory, yes.
And also a lot of Jesus stuff that's kind of intermingled with ass puns. It's just a very weird place.
Yep.
We're going to pass it again soon.
Yeah, we are. Well, in like 50 miles.
Yeah.
So, we got to this one on Thursday. Specifically, I got out of work. We loaded up the car. We hit the road. And this one's about a 4-hour drive, give or take. So, again, load up the car, hit the road, all that jazz. Nothing too fancy on this one, just three ball gowns for you? 4 ball gowns.
Ball gowns. I did wear my skunky dress on Thursday night, because, ball gowns are just my fursuit. I feel more comfortable in a ball gown, so.
Yep. In fact, you literally put ball gowns on my fursuit on your con badge at one point.
I did. It doesn't fit on many con badges, though, because it's too many characters, so.
Yeah, if they give you enough characters, you'll do that one. But yeah, so again, pretty smooth drive. We were a bit stressy on it just because the previous day we got caught in a really bad traffic accident. We were not involved in the accident itself. We just got caught in the tailback. But basically,
the highway next to our house has been constructed since we moved here 4 years ago, and it just keeps getting more and more disheveled as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And it also means just because it's a major trucks just go through that area about once or twice a month. It's just closed in one direction for multiple hours, and it's the only way to get through if you want to go east-west at all, or even north-south for shorter directions. And it just, when it closes, it's just a giant thing.
It's a mess.
And a lot of times we're fortunate enough to not be on it, but we generally always know somebody who is, and it's just, it's not a great section of road.
Yeah. So again, two semi-trucks had basically had some kind of incident. We're unclear on the details. So yeah, that just made us a little stressy on the drive, just because we were hoping we didn't run into that again. Fortunately, we didn't. But yeah, so we got down, what time was it? Close to 9? Because we actually made pretty decent time on the drive, relatively speaking. Getting through Columbus was a little janky in the way that getting through Columbus usually is, but other than that, we were okay. And then, so pulled in, figured out where we needed to be, went in, and this con did something very unusual that I've not seen before. The events because registration didn't actually open until 9 on Thursday, you could go to events on Thursday without needing to have bought without needing your con badge on you. That was fascinating. I've never seen that done before, but it kind of worked.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know why they chose 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. as a start time. It's a bit weird to have registration open that late specifically on Thursday, but it might just be that's when staff could get there reasonably, which is fair, because again, I'll call most cons, and especially this one, are definitely volunteer run.
Yep.
And you just kind of have to work around those particular hours. It also might have just been when the room was open. I don't really know.
Yep.
And they did have some earlier events that day we did not go to just because we didn't want to take a full work day, I think, on Thursday, just with everything else going on in our lives at the moment. So we just drove down after work, so you didn't have to take a day off work.
Yeah.
Specifically to go to one panel that I was right about.
Yeah. So this was a panel we've seen done plenty of times at... weirdly, specifically, it's at Fur Cons.
Yeah.
I don't know why other cons don't do this as well.
Well, I can't tell if, Alkali, which is one of the kind of group of comedians that does a lot of furry cons in our area, started, or if it was something that just kind of started at Fur Con simultaneously. But Fur Cons do seem to have a lot of like events that are like this that are kind of, I think, specific to furry cons.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's partially just because at furry cons, and I've seen them mention this a few times, the people are the entertainment. There's not really any celebrity draws or stuff like that, so it's just people mostly entertaining each other and having fun in costume, which is awesome.
Again, there are a few furry celebrities, but
they're local to furries, though, generally.
Yes.
Speaking of which, we've generally traditionally seen this run by Alkali. We've never seen it run by anyone else.
Nope.
And Alkali was not at this con. They were last year. They weren't this year. That's their business.
Yeah,
and we don't need to know. Like, they're not obligated to be here.
Yep.
And it could also be knowing Alkali that they just had another convention conflicting with this one. Yep. I don't know.
Again, there'll be some reason, and it's we don't
Similarly,
know.
Boozy was not here. I think they were also here last year. I suspect that might just be their kids are starting school this week.
Yep.
Which, fair.
Yep.
The reason we didn't go last year is because I started school the week it was, because it was a week later chronologically.
Yeah.
Last year than it was this year.
Yeah, so next weekend is the last weekend before classes start up again, which means we are not doing anything quite this heavy.
Yeah, we're doing a very local steampunk festival next weekend.
Yes, which will be a much shorter, smaller episode, but that's absolutely fine. I might get the chance to actually get some sleep, maybe.
Mm-hmm. But to be clear, neither of these people are obligated to be there.
Nope.
They're furries. They can choose what cons to go to.
Yep.
And it's their business why they weren't here. We did not hear from anyone why they were not here, nor did we ask. So.
Nope. Again, I suspect it was just schedule conflicts or couldn't get time off work or whatever.
Or maybe they just wanted a break. Also valid.
Also valid. But yeah, so this panel was being run by a few other people.
Mm-hmm. I'll see if I can plug names to the extent. Some of the events don't have names attached to them, though, so I'll have to do what I can.
So MST3K is exactly what you think it is. They're going to put on a bad movie. You're going to make fun of it as a group. But there's also a drinking game element involved specifically to raise money for the charity. So you have the option to pay money to the charity to add a rule to the drinking game that they're going to be playing on stage. My favorite rule to add is somebody dies. It's classic. A lot of bad movies involve a lot of people dying, so, it's usually good to get them to drink a few times. I pitched that this time, and I think I pitched it at $20, and they said bump it to 40, and they'd add it, and I said, fair enough.
And we also added, I think, drink anytime there's sexual tension. We did donate a lot of money, like most of our con donating budget that night, which we typically don't do, but people were kind of having a little bit of trouble getting into the spirit of donation, I think, just because it was a new group running it, because I do know Alkali did run it last year. Mm-hmm. And this year I think it was taken over by con staff, which is absolutely fine.
Yep.
But it does mean that
it sometimes takes a little while to warm up the crowd into the giving a bunch of money to charity mood.
Yeah, so we're kind of trying to be a part of that.
Yeah.
But, I will point out we called, because typically when they first announce the rules, they don't tell you the movie, so you don't try to, make rules that will have everyone die. But this time I predicted the movie, and I think a lot of other people did too.
Quite a few people predicted
I predicted it back in March when I found out that they were having this theme. When I was vaguely looking at this event, I'm like, they're definitely going to have us do the 2000 D&D movie.
Yep.
Which they did.
Yes, this was the infamously bad 2000s D&D movie, the one with Jeremy Irons, who I've not seen this movie in so long. I genuinely forgotten how little of it Jeremy Irons is actually in. He's in 4 or 5 scenes total. Most of it is focused on it's Marlon Wayans, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of the actor who's actually the lead in this movie. He was one of the Jimmy Olsens on Lois and Clark. But it says something that when I uttered the phrase, "Oh look, it's our main characters," you uttered the phrase, "Oh God, really?"
They did not look like main characters. I will say this was not a movie I would ever watch on my own, but a movie that was fantastic to watch in a group of people shouting at the screen, which is the perfect type of movie for MST3K.
Yes.
And I actually particularly enjoyed this one just because we happened to be sitting near people who we've met at other cons, including Sigma and Iggy, and a few other people. So we kind of just formed a group because how the room was laid out, there was a main stage and there were 2 kind of smaller screens on each side of it. So most people were, I think, kind of clustered near the sides so they could see the TVs.
Yeah.
It worked out fine for the amount of people they happened to have.
Yeah, bigger screens would have been nice, but again, that's a technical limitation. That's yep. Cons generally have the choice between projectors and TVs for certain things.
And keep in mind, you have to pay extra to even have those.
Yeah. And that's a actual equipment that the con owns situation. So yeah, bigger screens would have been nice, but I get the limitation, and it worked fine. Like, we were perfectly happy to take the mick out of a terrible movie. And one thing I do appreciate is the fact that somebody said it was hard to hear what was being said, and AV basically paused the movie, put the subtitles on, and then restarted the movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a second. The AV team this weekend was working their butts off
They
was doing a great job.
They were. And they also had to keep those stations manned because AV is understandably paranoid about people messing with electronic equipment they should not be messing with.
Yeah.
So they do not leave it alone,
Yep.
which means somebody has to man those stations constantly, which is an impressive task just on its own.
Yes.
That said, also, please do not mess with AV equipment unless you are trained in, like, actually on con volunteer staff or being told by volunteer staff specifically.
Yep.
Like, not okay.
Yeah,
expensive, dangerous, don't do it.
Yes. We want to clarify. We didn't see anybody messing with it all
We didn't see anybody
weekend.
messing with it, but
just don't.
it's one of those things where, like, somebody might think it's kind of a fun prank to mess with AV equipment. That is not a fun prank.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. If you damage any of it, the con will have words with you.
Yeah, and even if you don't damage it, like, getting pitches and reverbs on mics to work actually takes a lot of fine-tuning very easily, and you're just ruining somebody's day by messing it up.
Yeah.
Especially since they're a volunteer.
Yeah.
Also, I will point out this was the first event, and this was a theme throughout the weekend, where people just straight up recognized us from MCFC and a few other events we've been to.
Yeah, that was weird.
And people said hi to us, and, like, these are people who have listened to this podcast before, so thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very much appreciated. We are glad that, like, in particular, I did send an email with a link to this podcast to the feedback at MCFC account, and apparently they listened to it and took some of our feedback on board. So, thanks, guys.
You. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that our similar people are working this con.
Yeah. So yeah, at that panel, we actually got invited to multiple other panels.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some of them were at conflicting times.
Yes, we will talk about Friday's schedule.
Yeah, and if we did not make it to your panel, we're sorry.
Yeah. In particular, we got invited to go to Well Technically, specifically because apparently the person hosting that listened to the podcast.
And took some of our advice.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
I wish I could remember what the advice we gave them was. Because I have not had time to go back and re-listen to the entire episode to figure out what exactly the advice was.
I do remember Will technically with them, though. I will shout them out when we get to that point in the schedule. It's just the schedule's not cooperating right now.
Yep. But we also got invited by Sigma to go to their panel, and by Iggy to go to their 7 o'clock improv panel on.
I think we were invited by the two of them the
Friday?
next day. It's just that involved larger participation because I think we were invited when we went to something else that morning.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. I lose track.
Yeah, but we were invited to go to Well Technically that night, and we did really want to go.
Yes,
and then we were invited to 2 other panels that conflicted with that panel.
Yep.
So that got a little hairy.
Yeah.
But it is nice that people want us at their panels. We really appreciate that, and like,
really do.
Yeah, just if they were not scheduled opposite, we absolutely would have been in all 3.
Yes. So, again, overall, we had a lot of fun watching a terrible movie.
Yeah.
A
couple minor tweaks, because again, I do think this is something where this is the first time where somebody who's not Alkali ran it. And I think the major thing they just kind of suffered from is, like, Alkali kind of is the person who's making all the decisions. They didn't have, like, a point person on that. So a couple things like how much stuff should cost took a little bit longer to figure out.
Yeah.
Getting people on board.
There were a couple of occasions where they actually paused the movie to kind of discuss rule changes. Whereas, again, when Alkali is the one running it, he just yells at people and that's what happens.
Yeah. And I don't think it makes sense to, like, change the rules when the rules are just kind of blind and then you reveal what the movie is and then you change it, like, maybe halfway through. But I think you only need to do that once.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of bog stuff down for a little bit. And this movie was also slightly longer. It was about an hour and 45 minutes. Traditionally, it's about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Just because you'll die if it's any longer than that. And
Yeah,
it was already
you don't want to be doing this with, like, special edition Lord of the Rings or something.
So yeah, that I think would be my main things is And part of the reason why I think it didn't really work as like changing the rules was just because everyone knew what the movie was to begin with, just because it was obvious what it was going to be.
Oh, there were a bunch of rules that were very deliberately picked because we knew what the movie was. Like,
no one was remotely fooled by it being
when you were suggesting sexual tension, I was laughing my posterior off because I knew about the character with the blue lipstick, where every scene he's in feels like there's sexual tension, even though there isn't supposed to be. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which again, very, very funny for the whole drinking game thing. Because it is fun to just yell sexual tension out loud at a panel of people who then just sigh and start drinking.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, for the record, you can play this game along in the audience if you want. You don't have to. Or you can just play with water. And like the staff that's drinking on stage is drinking to the extent that they feel comfortable. Like, I don't think Iggy was on stage for that one, but he's definitely been on stage in the past. And he is like dying of kidney failure, so he's not drinking, he's just pretending to, and that's fine.
Whereas you've got somebody like, again, Alkali Boozy, whose livers are made of, I don't know, neutronium or something at this point.
Yeah, I do get the sense that they would have donated a kidney to Alkali if their kidneys were not already shot. No offense.
Your liver and your kidney mixed up.
Whatever.
The liver's the one that gets screwed over by alcohol.
Again, and for the record, I don't want to accuse any of them of actually being alcoholics. They go hard for this event, and that's fine.
Yeah, like they know when to party and when not to, and that's fine. Like, again.
So yeah, my urgent criticisms of this event would just be like, only stop the movie once, just because it's kind of long already and people are enjoying watching it. If you want to do that to change the rules, and maybe just have like one designated person who makes the calls and be really firm about what those calls are. Just like, this rule is going to cost this much.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple times where it was just kind of confusing what was going on, and there wasn't somebody who was like commanding the room.
Yeah.
Really.
Which again, it's fine.
It's fine.
We had a lot of fun.
And this was this group's first time running it, so it's a little bit harder to like manage it if it's your first time running it.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more confidence, and maybe only stop the movie once. And I think at one point during the debates about how much stuff should cost, we did walk out and just get our con badges and come back.
Yep.
And they were still talking about it. For the record, registration, which I guess we'll talk about now, was super easy. So when we got there at 9, right when it opened, there was a line. So we just, as expected, because it was 9 and that's when it opened. So we just went to into the like panel room we were in, because we didn't need any badges for anything that night.
Yep.
So we got there a few minutes before it started, sat down, and just kind of avoided the line that way. We also did notice disability service desk at that time, but there were a couple people waiting in line for that. Like, the line wasn't long or anything. I was just like, I'll deal with that tomorrow, because I suspect it'll be a little bit easier for me tomorrow when there's not like other people they're trying to accommodate who might have more immediate needs than I do.
Sorry, we just passed a sign that just said, we're having big fun in Uranus.
You're welcome. So we went and got our con badges. We debated kind of tapping in the movie just because it was kind of late, but we stayed till the end, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah, like, the end of that movie is phenomenal.
It's so
terrible,
weird.
But it's phenomenal to watch.
Yep.
You know, the moment when they basically, like, teased the sequel movie that, thank God, I don't think they ever made. It's just like, oh God, no.
There's just a simple pleasure in watching a movie filled with like a bunch of people who are just all hate watching it and shouting stuff out together and making each other laugh that like you get to do as a teenager, but you don't really get to do as a full-grown adult that much, at least not with a bunch of people. You doing okay?
Yep.
Okay. Honey?
Yes.
What are you doing?
Phone's just decided it doesn't want to charge. There we go. So yeah. So what was I talking about?
The movie.
The movie. So yeah, again, if you want a terrible movie to watch with your friends, the 2000s Dungeons and Dragons one's a pretty good movie to watch.
Don't watch it alone and don't pay for it.
Yeah, basically.
And by that I mean get it completely legally on the internet.
Yeah, you can find copies.
Legally.
Like I'm pretty sure it's on, like one of the streaming services. Because again, our main debate was, are they going to do the terrible one or are they going to do the recent one, Honor Among Thieves, which is actually a pretty good movie.
The last couple of MST3Ks we've gone to in the furry community have actually been good movies. It was kind of nice to see one that wasn't a good movie.
Yeah. I do feel like having a good movie at MST3K kind of misses the point.
Yeah.
But,
Because some people just get into watching the movie, which is fine, but it's less fun than making fun of the movie. So.
Yes. But yeah, so that was kind of the only thing we did on Thursday night.
I am glad we drove down for it, though, because we were debating whether or not to do that, but we wanted to get here kind of early-ish on Friday, too.
Yeah.
So we got to our Airbnb, which was
aggressively mid.
Yep. Although I do think Airbnb should have to state when, like, again, they have to list on their app what their amenities are, but for air conditioning, like, if they have, like, a single air conditioner in one room, that counts as air conditioning.
Yep.
It's like one of those portal windows. I'm like, that's not air conditioning. I want central air, which this one did not have.
This one did not have. This one just had 2 wall units.
Yeah.
Or some window units.
Kind of grumpy about that because I'm just tired of dealing with this. But, you know, we're going into fall now, so sort of.
We're heading in that direction.
Yeah. And there wasn't anything we wanted to do immediately in the morning, so we kind of stayed at home for a bit, or in the Airbnb, and just kind of chilled till I think around 11-ish.
Yep.
And then we got to the con around that time the next day.
Yep.
And the first thing we did was stop by the Disability Service Desk.
It's not called that.
Sorry, it is called
Dignity Services?
It is called Dignity Support Services. You were right. Thank you for calling me on that.
You're welcome.
And this is something, it's still the same acronym, DSS, which is the same acronym. It's just called Dignity as opposed to Disability. Some people in the disability community care about that. I don't particularly. But, you know, if some people care and they want it to be called that, there's no reason not to call it that because no one else is going to care.
Yep.
And I do think this was a new feature this year that somebody really wanted to put in place. And I will say it is rare for a con of this size to have that level of care for disabled attendants.
It is.
You sometimes see it at bigger cons, even at bigger cons, sometimes they don't really have it at all.
Or they have it, but it's a bit slapdash. And it's,
Yeah.
You know.
And it's something where they didn't even think about the accommodations. Here, they did think about the accommodations, and it was really good. So you got to the desk. You had to fill out like a form. This was more just for record keeping if you was using this, especially since it was the first year it was up. I didn't really mind that much.
Yep.
There was no one at the time. They just had me put my name and stuff like that. I could have put my disability. They said that was optional, which I appreciated because mine's hard to explain. There's a reason why I don't like list it on this podcast because it's not like one simple thing, and I think they were understanding of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me a sheet explaining what the accommodations were. So I think you could ask for specific stuff. The general stuff they have was you were allowed to go in after the super sponsors for any of the big events. And for stuff like Artist Alley and the Vendors Hall, which did have fairly significant lines at various portions of the day, you could come back as opposed to waiting in line, which I honestly love as an accommodation. Because for me, waiting in line is the thing I can't do. I don't mind having to like come back later. That's way easier.
Yeah. Basically, they would have, you go up to the person at the front, they would give you something that says come back at this time, you come back at that time, and they'll let you in.
For the record, we didn't really use either of those accommodations. Both of them were nice accommodations to have. We just didn't go into any events that were popular enough in this. And I'll be honest, as we mentioned before in this podcast, Artist Alley and Dealer's Den and stuff like that are kind of more of just like things to do when we're bored at cons. They're not like a thing we need to get into. Really.
Yeah, they're not a major draw for us. Whereas for some people, they are the primary reason they want to be there. That's fine. Like, again, get out of cons what you want to get out of cons. And if that is doing a bunch of shopping with cool stuff you can't see anywhere else, great. Have fun with it.
But I could tell that somebody really cared about this and thought about this, which was really awesome. Because it is rare for cons of that size to have this level of thought put into it.
Yeah, I would agree.
So in order to use the services, you did have to get a DSS wristband.
Yeah.
Which is actually at least a nice wristband. Like this is plastic as opposed to paper.
Mm-hmm.
So you can shower and stuff like that with it on, which is great.
Yep.
And they did have other options if you couldn't attach it to your wrist due to Sentry issues, which was great.
Yeah.
My only real criticism of it is highly visible. So for some disabled people, that would be really great because some people have problems communicating to staff. So seeing a bracelet would be really great for them to like know that they had accessibility needs and might not be able to communicate them. Some disabilities or make that hard. Like Citrine, for instance, is blind, so he might need help or assistance from staff and not be able to see them. Some people have disabilities where they can't talk very easily, so they might need help. Some people are deaf, they might need help. For me and my disability, it does make me feel a little bit self-conscious to have like a band that's like yellow and a little bit visible because my disability is invisible. So I guess an extremely minor criticism I would have is just maybe have options for people who like want to have like a visible badge and people who don't. So maybe you could have like a wristband for somebody who wanted to be visible and a like small sticker for somebody who didn't want to be visible.
Just something that will go on the con badge.
Yeah,
We've seen
which
that
I've
a few
seen at other
times before
cons.
at other cons, which again, if you can't justify spending the money to have both, fair enough.
That's fair.
The wristband is a solid choice.
Like, I do think inconveniencing people who feel a little self-conscious about being labeled as disabled is better than inconveniencing people who might need help who can't get it because they can't communicate.
Yes, I would agree. Like, again, it's mostly just a case of this would be a nice little extra, thing to have as a choice. It's not a critical issue or a deal breaker or anything. We are just, we're trying to offer some very specific things that would benefit you.
Yeah. And it is worth noting that disability access or dignity access is, I want to be respectful of the term that they chose to call it, is hard to do just because a lot of people have very different needs and you can't possibly solve for all disabilities all of the time.
Yeah.
So the thought is definitely there, and they're definitely doing a lot of things right. And I do get the bracelets also for like elevator access and stuff like that, because if you needed to use the elevator quickly, having a visible bracelet would help you get elevator priority.
Yeah.
That's just not an issue for me generally. With my disability, I don't really need that generally, and I wasn't staying at the convention center. But again, I don't expect all access to be catered to me specifically.
Yes.
I do appreciate that they have it. They were clearly putting a lot of thought into it, and I am really happy to see that. The furry community has been really great these past couple of years with really helping disabled people, and I do appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, if you were working that particular desk or you had a hand in any of the planning stuff, you did a really good job.
You did.
Like we were impressed.
We were.
Yeah, we're just trying to offer like a couple of small tidbits that we think will be useful in the future.
And yeah, I will say you did a lot of things right that other cons don't do. You had a desk. That was great. You had a list of like specific accommodations and how they worked. That was great.
Yep.
You had like people who were aware that this was happening. That was great. Like most cons don't have any of that. Like you'll maybe get a disabled sticker like a couple of other cons, but they don't explain what it does or how you use it at all.
Mm-hmm.
This was great. Like honestly, a lot of great stuff I saw at this. Like,
or you'll have one where they'll hand out disability access stuff, and then there's no way you can actually use it.
Yeah, that's happened a bunch.
Yep.
There's not like a disabled line. There's not an alternative place you can sit. None of that's there.
Yeah.
Whereas you had this, and you were also then willing to have a conversation with anyone who had more specific needs than that, which is awesome.
Yeah. Like, very well done to this con. So we did that. You were wearing your monarch butterfly gown.
Yes.
On Friday, which for anybody who's not seen it, it's a giant hoop skirt ball gown with a monarch butterfly themed print on it. It's very, very pretty.
I love it. It is one of my less comfortable costumes.
Yes, sorry about that.
It's fine. I don't think it's a sizing issue. I think it's just that dress issue. But I might modify the back at some point.
Yeah, we're contemplating maybe taking the zip out and replacing it with a corset back or something. But again, that's a problem for future us to solve.
Yep. And that's why I chose to wear it this day, is because we were getting it a bit later, and it does have a more elaborate makeup look with it, so that took a bit of time this morning. And because both this gown has a bit of a train and the dress tomorrow has a bit of a train, particularly at a Fur Con, you are not in costume because you need to be on handler duty.
Yes, I was primarily on handler duty, so I was just dressed as a normal, boring human being.
You're wearing your human suit?
I was wearing my human suit for this one. But again, furries are very respectful of handlers. Like, it didn't happen at this con, but at previous fur cons I have had moments where I've just like exchanged the look with another person handling, and we've just like subtly scooched the two of you apart to make sure there are no collisions or no incidents. Which again, like you get to know like certain ways of communicating without needing a lot of communication with other handlers after you've done it a few times.
And I do like furry cons just because you get to interact with other handlers. Like, it's nice to see a bunch of other people who like go through what you go through a little bit with having to handle my cosplay and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just people who say stuff like, line goes about 10 people back, or stuff like that to you.
And it's just like, here's some useful information that you might need as somebody who's handling. And I'm like, oh, thanks, always.
Yeah, and people are very respectful. My dress did get stepped on a couple times this weekend, but completely accidental, and I think mostly like our mistakes versus anyone else's, which is normal.
Yeah, and again, people apologize the second they realize it happened. Like, we are not calling anybody out. Nobody did anything wrong. It's just, again, these things are going to happen.
Yeah, and you just have to kind of be prepared for it generally. And I can take the dress being stepped on occasionally. It's not going to hurt it. It's mostly just surprising. So I might shrink a slight bit.
Yeah.
So after that, we did kind of wander around for a bit because there was kind of still an awkward time gap because stuff didn't start till later in the day.
Yeah,
So we did check out the line for the vendor's hall or dealer's den, as they call them,
Yes.
which was long.
Long.
And was open by the time we were there. They were staggering entries for people because the hall was smaller and they didn't want to create safety hazards, which I do appreciate, actually.
Yeah, that was probably the right call on their part. They were guesstimating the wait was probably going to be about an hour. Based on the length of the line and the rate at which people were going in, that was probably a reasonable guess.
And if I wanted to get in at that time, I could have just gotten like a timestamp to come back, which I would have loved.
Yeah.
I didn't really care all that much, so I didn't do that, but I could have done that.
Yeah, we just waited until it was quiet and went in later, which, yeah, fine.
So, yeah, we just mostly hung out to do that. We did go into the vendor's hall later. I guess we'll talk about that then.
Yep.
And then we did Improv 101 with Grandpa Murphy.
Yep. So, for whatever reason, furries really love improv comedy. Like, every fur con we've been to has a bunch of improv comedy panels.
Which is great. I love improv too.
Yeah. So this particular panel was more of a, well, as the name implies, Improv 101. It was very much an introduction to doing improv. Mm-hmm. So if you warm up exercises, going over kind of like the basic rules of improv, so your classic yes and that kind of stuff, which was again absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. I think you and I were starting to get a little bored of parts a bit, just because again you and I have done enough improv that the warm-up stuff, I think we start to get a little bored by eventually. Doing it for an hour.
Like, the beginnings of improv is just to get you comfortable on a stage, which is definitely something you need to do. Mm-hmm. For the most part, you and I are pretty comfortable on stages at this point in our lives. Just because we've gone to a lot of cons and done stuff. And I want to be clear, we're not experts at improv. We did not know as much as this person who was running the improv panel. Yep. We would not have been able to instruct it as well as they are. And we're definitely not experts in any way, shape, or form. We're still learning. We're still definitely students. It's just, I don't think quite this level of student anymore.
Yes. We're not necessarily 101 students, but we had fun.
We did. And it's always fun to just kind of play with people on stage. And when we started getting to see more, it got a little bit more fun. I will also just say, because a lot of beginning improv is about like moving your body to get you to feel comfortable on stage. I think I'm kind of just an inverse type person where like I talk and then I feel comfortable moving my body, whereas other people I think move their bodies and then feel comfortable talking.
Yeah. Which I think is doubly true of furries, because again, especially if you're in a fursuit, mm-hmm. which several of the people participating in this were, you often can't be heard terribly well with the fursuit head on, which means you've got to be like making big, bold, expressive gestures, with your entire body, in order to get other people to, understand what you are getting at. You basically have to operate in mime sometimes, which means that a lot of them are a lot more comfortable moving than they are talking. So again, a lot of the games involved were about bridging that gap, and again, I think for the most part they were good choices of games. Do we have any major criticism or feedback? I don't think there's anything really screaming at me.
Yeah, I think my only thing is just sometimes this person was giving like notes to specific people, and that can be a little bit, I think, harsh for beginning level improvs where they were like, don't do this or do this. And that's a hard line to walk because you don't want to like get people to do stuff, but at the same time, I do find that criticism can like shut people down more than it can help them sometimes. But that's a really hard line to like walk. You obviously do want to do some instructing. But sometimes you're picking out specific things a particular person does that could make them a little bit self-conscious. But it's a hard line to walk because everyone has different lines and motives. So I don't even know if that's really a criticism so much as just an observation as to how teaching works. Which, believe me, as a professor, I feel it's actually quite hard. I don't know how to do it either.
Yep.
It's like, how do I criticize you at the same time as not getting you to immediately hate me?
And this is why I won't let you look at Yik Yak.
We're not getting into that. That has nothing to do with this. Also, Yik Yak should just be banned.
Yep.
We really need to just get rid of it. College students should not be able to post anonymously in a small community about their college. It's led to way too many bad things happening.
Yep.
So we did that. That was fun. And then I think we were accosted both by Sigma and by Iggy to
help with their panels.
Help with their panels, because Alkali and Boozy, and I think some of the big headliners in the furry community were not here, and they knew us vaguely, so...
Yeah, they were of the opinion that we are quite funny and are comfortable doing improv-y stuff, so they wanted us to turn up to their panels and help. Which...
we appreciate the compliment more than anything else.
Like, we are really, really honored by being asked. Like, we really are, so thank you. So yeah, that was the reason we did not make it to Well technically, was because Sigma basically asked us to come and be on their panel and help. So.
Yeah, and we weren't really sure how that was working, because we did want to go to Well technically, which started at 2:30 by Hatter Bear, who's I think one of the kind of runners, Nylan, I think I'm saying that right, it might be Nylan, and Nisbet. And Question This, which is run by Sigma the Wolf, was at 3. And then Iggy's Pyramid was at 3:30. And we were like, those are 3 events we all really want to attend, and they're all like kind of in a row.
How do we handle this?
How do we handle this? And then it was kind of decided for us, because one asked us to watch and the other asked us to participate. And I'm like, well, I feel more needed, I guess, at this one. So thanks.
Yep.
Although, in fairness, Will technically might have also asked us to participate had we shown up.
Goodness knows.
So yeah, sorry.
No clue. But yeah, so...
And we really don't want to make this seem like we're bragging at all.
No.
We're mostly just honored by it.
We are. Like, thank you. It meant a lot to us.
Yeah, it really did.
But the one thing I will say is that for whatever reason, there was some odd bunching of panels at this convention, where just, like, a bunch of the stuff we wanted to do was kind of piled close together in ways that we had conflicts, and then there were periods of downtime where there wasn't anything we wanted to do. But at the same time, we're very cognizant of the fact that, like, a con cannot build its schedule around what we specifically want to do.
No, I will say at the, like, 5 o'clock or dinner time slots, there tended to be less stuff on just generally. And, yeah, I do think that's a time where, you know, if a room's open, particularly one of the bigger rooms, you probably should just be putting more programming there. But at the same time, you also have to work with the AV team, who probably does need a dinner break.
Yep.
Which I get. So... yeah. So yeah, that's, I guess, our note specifically. If you want us to attend Well technically, please space out events more, specifically for us.
Yep.
Just us.
Oh, we're bad people.
We are.
But no, so we weren't able to make it to Well technically. I'm sure it went well.
Technically?
Technically, yep.
You walked into that.
Yeah, I did. Again, we'll talk about it a little bit more in the things we didn't do part.
Yeah, I will promote it as an event, because I really did enjoy it at MCFC, and I would, in any other circumstance, love to have seen it again.
Yes, I would agree.
But we did go to, I think, Question This, because it was at 3, and there wasn't really anything else at the time period between then, so. I think you probably got food in between those areas.
I think I might have done.
So we did Question This, which is a kind of reverse Jeopardy style panel. It's a little hard to explain.
So it's sort of based on Jeopardy, except it's comedy.
Yep.
So, you know, the basic principle of this is somebody in the audience, or somebody on the panel, gives a broad topic suggestion, the way you would when you're picking categories on Jeopardy. So, desserts for 200. At which point, somebody in the audience is then asked to provide the answer to the question. And specifically, Sigma, when they're running this, will take a bunch of different audience suggestions and then kind of take their favorite. And then the panel has to provide the question that's going to give the funniest combination with that, with that answer that comes from the audience. So can you think of any specific examples? I can think of one if you...
I have a couple. And it can be like wordplay type answers. So, like, if the answer was something like wood, it could be like, what is a wand made out of? Which is not a very good one, but is one. Or wood, what is a woodchuck check? Something like that. Yeah. You have some?
The specific example was going to be I got asked to give the topic. I said the British Empire. That got a decent laugh out of the audience, which I was proud of. They then shouted various things back and forth, and the answer ended up being spices, or spicy. And then my comment was, what content has MasterCard been attempting to ban recently?
Mm-hmm. And I think one of mine was, what is with sugar and everything nice, what created the greatest trio of all time?
Yes.
Stuff like that. It's wordplay, which I love a lot.
Yeah.
And I had fun with that one. We were getting some good laughs.
We were.
Good audience participation. Room was crowded, so.
Again, it was in one of the smaller panel rooms, so it was nudging up against the fire safety code, but everybody seemed to be having a good time.
And I will say it is harder to review panels that we were actually kind of unintentionally doing.
Yeah, you got actively called up pretty early, and then I got kind of tagged in once Iggy had to leave because again, Iggy had their own panel to run.
But it was fun. Yabe was doing it with us. And the person who was hosting improv also, I think, got recruited last minute to do it. Yeah. So, Grandpa Murphy. So they were up there too. Someone did, I think, a great job running it. Reverses with the audience. It's very silly. It's a very fun way to spend an hour. And I love wordplay panels, I will admit, just generally.
Yeah. But again, I think the main issue this panel had was just because of the way the schedule had worked out. Iggy is normally one of the people that Sigma calls on to be one of the panel, and they had to leave halfway through to go run their own panel.
Yeah. And fairness, by Iggy's own admission, they were too sick to look at the schedule before this weekend. Not their fault, not the con's fault.
Yeah.
But it's something you should probably, check a little bit more. But it is probably hard to know who's supposed to be where at this con because you have 20 people doing different things.
Yep.
So we did slip into this and then immediately go to Iggy's Pyramid.
Yep.
Sigma thanks us. Sigma, by the way, uses, I'm pretty sure they them pronouns, but they also take every single pronoun badge and then also write a bunch of joke pronouns underneath the pronoun badges. So I don't think they really want to be called ooh woo, I love you, but if those are their pronouns, we respect that.
That is a valid choice of pronouns. So yeah.
So we're going to go with they, them. I assume that's the safest choice for them.
Yes, I think that is the one they typically prefer, but again, who knows?
So we did check out Iggy's Pyramid for briefly after that because we wanted to finish up with that.
Yep.
Yabe was also in there with us, who somehow got there before us, even though we rushed out of the room to get there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Yabe managed that.
Well, Yabe is also on staff, so I think Yabe just can get through walls somehow.
Yeah, that's fair.
It also wouldn't surprise me if that was just their superpower somehow. Because they, I think, have a very similar story to us because we've talked to them a little bit at Anthro, Ohio, where they were like, yeah, I wasn't originally on staff, and then one day I was just on staff.
Still not entirely sure how that happened.
I feel like we're inching closer to that happening.
It's not impossible. We will see what happens. We don't volunteer at cons largely because one of the big perks you get for volunteering at cons is a free badge. And
we're just kind of at a place in life where we don't really need that as a perk.
Yeah.
I will say, having done a bunch of cons and seeing the closeness of the staff and how they sometimes have staff retreats and get to hang out, hanging out after you accomplish something awesome is one of the best feelings in the world. The problem is you just have to accomplish something awesome to get to that feeling.
And that's a pain in the neck.
Yeah, that's hard. And I don't know if we have the energy to do that and also continue this podcast and attend 40 conventions a year.
Yeah.
So... But
we're insane.
If you want to hire us, and by hire I mean just let us do it for free as consultants, where we do this.
No. Okay. I get one F-bomb per episode based on the fact that this is nominally a PG-13 podcast.
You realize that's fake, right?
Yeah, I know. I could use it now, and I really want to for that pun.
I've used that pun before.
Uh-huh.
So we did Iggy's Pyramid, which is a pyramid-based game show. If you've seen Pyramid, it's what it was like. They were halfway through the show by the time we got there.
Yep.
Ayabe went up. I think they won their round. I don't remember.
I genuinely do not
And we
remember.
got to face off on the same team this time, which is super fun.
Yeah, we don't normally have the chance to work together.
And we won.
We did. Which again...
And you couldn't remember customs when I was border control. Despite the fact that you go through that insane amounts.
Look, it's a while since I've been through it. Okay, it was in January? Yeah, it was January of this year was the last time I went through it. Because again, I have a green card now. I don't have to pull shenanigans in order to get in and out of the country. For the record, I am not implying I did anything illegal. Everything I did was completely legitimate. It's just I was operating under a shorter term visa that meant I could only stay for 3 months at a time. So there was a lot of back and forth.
And then by using it correctly, they were like, yeah, you can't use this correctly anymore.
They basically said I had not done anything illegal, but I was kind of pushing up against the way it was intended to work. So I should probably get a proper visa next time, which I did. I took the advice of the nice Border Patrol person who let me in.
Because you liked Warhammer.
Yes, they let me in because I liked Warhammer. That is a long story. We're not getting into that on this podcast. But yeah, so again, Iggy's Pyramid is always fun. I really appreciate the fact that Iggy takes a lot of time to, he really loves taking the con theme and running with it when he's designing his game shows. Yep. A lot of these, a lot of the game shows you see at cons will just be kind of, I'm not going to say generic, they will usually be loosely themed around whatever the fandom in particular is. Iggy just takes the theme of the con and runs with it.
Yeah. And I want to be clear, Iggy's also doing this when he's extremely sick. I don't think anyone forced him to do it, to be clear, also.
Yeah.
It was just something I think he wanted to do because he knew this was kind of going to be his last hurrah before he hopefully gets a kidney transplant. Is going to be out of commission for a while.
Yeah.
Or dies if that doesn't happen. I don't know if I'm not going to leave the curtain open on that. That is what is going to happen.
This is true.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. But again, IggyLand.org.
Yes. And a lot of people are helping in any way they can, and Iggy really does understand that. Probably only even 10% of the population generally can or is in physical enough health to donate their kidney, and there's a lot of rules. So, and he's very understanding of that fact.
He is.
I love you.
So yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying that to him or you. I don't really know. Anyway.
It's fine.
I love you in very different ways. Let's establish that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He's an awesome dude. If you can, do.
Yeah, I do admire all the work he puts in. This again was D&D themed in a very fun way. Iggy also because the original Pyramid has ridiculous categories that don't make any sense. That's its stick is just Red Raven or something like that. And then the thing is tell me these facts about Edgar Allan Poe during his Red period. And then it's just words associated with that. He does a really great job of replicating that. And I don't know if he's created his software or not. I would have to check.
Yeah, so I would have to ask the question. I'm not saying anybody else used that particular software, so it might be something he made himself, but...
I think he made it himself for at least his own home game, which he did it.
Yeah.
And it's also worth noting he was on stage a lot this weekend. And he had a longer drive than we did, so...
Yep.
I really hope this was your great last con, hopefully for a while, but not forever.
Yes.
Yep. Sorry, I'm actually crying a little bit now.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, yeah. So what did we do after that?
We went to do Jackbox. This was where there was just... So yeah, in between 4:30 and around 7, there wasn't a lot of stuff we specifically wanted to do. There was still stuff, just not stuff we specifically wanted to do.
Yes, which again, we do not expect a con to cater to our exact personal needs at all times. We want to be clear on that. It's just having multiple game we really like game show panels, and having kind of all of the game show panels clustered together just kind of limited our options a little bit.
So we went to Jackbox Party Time, which is a panel that we typically just kind of sit in the back of. Generally, it's not something we try to do really ever.
Yeah.
But it's fine and fun, and I will say this was very well run for a Jackbox panel.
Yeah, this was probably the best Jackbox panel we've been in.
Mm-hmm. And this was by Serathin. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, but that's what their persona name was.
Yes.
And I do not know the pronouns. We're going to stick with they, them.
Yep. But specifically, there were a couple of things about Jackbox panels that we frequently dislike. One is just picking games that aren't great for the audience. Because some of the games like Trivia Murder Party, the audience is basically just also playing the game. You're answering the trivia questions. You're kind of working together as a single many-headed Hydra entity, but you are all at least participating. Whereas there are some that just the audience just kind of sits there and does nothing for a while, which is just not as much fun. But the host for this one was, for the most part, picking games that worked pretty well with the audience. Like bracketeering takes 16 players.
Yeah, and playing it in the audience is effectively the same as playing it. Trivia Murder Party is the same way, where it's like if you're in the audience, you're still basically playing the game.
Yeah,
it's just harder to win, but who cares? So yeah, they're picking games that like worked for audience participation generally.
Yep.
They picked a lot of games. They also give this person like a 3-hour time slot to just play them. So for the most part, people who wanted to play got to play.
Yeah.
We still didn't, and that is, I guess, the one criticism I have is just anything that is fast as finger is going to be less accessible to people who have disabilities, just because it might be harder for them to do.
Yep. And yeah.
But I do think if you had like, once we're at the last hour mark, if you could have gone up to the host and just been like, hey, we haven't played yet. We've seen other people play multiple times. We have trouble like typing in the code. Would it be okay if we got in on the next game? I do think the host would have been amenable to that.
I suspect so. And they were basically saying, if you played in the last game, please give other people a chance, to get into the next one. Which again, short of actively like picking people out of the crowd and giving them the code, behind a screen so that the rest of the audience can't see it until they're in and it's full. There isn't really a better way to handle it other than just asking people not to be dicks. And again, for the most part, if you actively ask people not to be dicks at a con like this, they won't be. Like, everybody knows that everybody else is there to have fun, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, other than that, like, we didn't really want to do that, mostly just because we're having fun anyway. And
it was a perfectly fine panel.
It was fun sitting back. Like, it did entertain me for 2 hours, which is rare that Jackbox panels do. So, and that 2-hour attention is nice for that. So,
the one thing I will say is, for whatever reason, Jackbox hates my VPN. I have to turn it off in order to actually use Jackbox.
And just because we haven't highlighted it yet, and I don't want to forget, this was in secondary events, which is where we spent most of our time.
Yes.
Well, we did go into main events at this one also.
Yeah, we went into main events a few times.
And both of these had stage decoration that was D&D themed that the con set up, which was very cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
I do not know who did that, but they did an awesome job.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing I will comment on at this con, so there was main events, secondary events, tertiary events, then panel rooms 2, 3, and 4.
It was a little confusing.
Yeah.
They did have a map, and it's not that big a space, so it's fairly easy to figure out.
Yeah, it didn't take us long to figure out what was going on. I just want to know what happened to panel room 1.
Well, I think panel room 1 might be confused with like secondary events, so they just don't have it. But tertiary events is also just a weird name for a space generally.
Yeah.
Again, it's not really a criticism.
Yeah, this is mostly... This is another of our old man yells at cloud things. This was just like... Okay, weird, but sure.
I'm sure there's some reason for it. It maybe makes more sense to someone.
Probably. It might just be that, like... Yeah, I don't know, one of them used to be panel room 1, and they've just kind of kept the labeling scheme from past years, so it's not confusing for people. I don't know. Like, maybe that's always been panel rooms 2, 3, and 4, and they didn't want to change it up and confuse people this year.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, there's not too much more to say about the Jackbox.
No, I thought it was pretty well run. It was what we wanted to do for time.
Yep. And as I say, we hung out in there for a couple of hours, kept us entertained. I think I got food at one point.
You did.
Yep.
You left and got food and came back, and like I was still playing and stuff like that.
Yep.
Mostly just hanging out with people, having a good time, kind of chilling. It was nice.
Yep. As I said, the concession stand was pretty decent at this con.
After that, we did kind of walk around a bit just because we needed to. And then we went to Press Your Luck in tertiary events briefly. We didn't stay at that one terribly long. With, do you want to say the host of this one? I don't think like what happened with that panel was really their fault. I think they were just struggling a little bit with AV stuff.
Yeah. So again, Press Your Luck is it's another classic game show, and I think they were just having a few technical problems. Like it meant that it started a little bit late, and we kind of had a different panel we were contemplating going to, so we ended up pivoting.
Yeah. And they weren't mic'd, and they weren't somebody who like was really decent at projecting their voice very well. Which I do think it's just something for which this person just I think needs a little bit more time to host the panel. Like I do think they should have them back next year, and I hope they host again. I just hope they took from this experience that they might need to project and maybe have like an assistant or something like that. Yeah,
I think it would have been fun if they'd had a microphone. But I don't think there were mics in tertiary. I didn't see any.
Yeah. And some people know how to project their voice and some people don't, and it is a little bit harder. That room is also a little bit cavernous generally. Because
Yes.
it is bigger than the smaller panel rooms, and it does have this like side area where people just kind of sit on the floor, which is fine. I think some people actually prefer sitting on the floor.
Yeah, especially fursuiters.
Yeah.
I've noticed that several of the fursuiters really prefer just being able to plonk themselves on the floor because it's easier and more comfortable than
And it wasn't a fire hazard because people who were like seated in chairs were not anywhere near them, so that's fine. Also great for wheelchair accessibility, so also, that's fine.
Yeah, like the space was set up well. It's just, again, if they could have had a microphone, that would have been useful, and they were definitely having some tech problems getting the audio to work, so yeah. Again, they didn't do anything specifically wrong. It was just, at that point, we decided,
Well, there was another panel we were interested in going in on. Press Your Luck isn't one of our favorite game shows anyway, just because it's mostly luck-based.
Yeah, as the name implies.
Yeah. So I think we were just kind of deciding this wasn't really for us, and we would rather go to so IFC Lore, the panel, with the IFC staff, who are, I think, similar to the AFC, or MFFC staff. This is what I mean. They all have F's and C's in them. It's just really confusing. MFFC. To be clear, again, it's a bit confusing for me, like who's on staff versus who just knows somebody. I'm sure there's probably some swapping. These cons are relatively close together.
Yeah.
And
there's definitely some crossover. People who are, at least one of the people on this con was commenting on the fact that they were intending to be vice chair of this con while they were vice chair of a different con, and then they ended up getting roped into being full chair and had to basically contact the other con and say, nope, I can't be vice chair anymore because I'm now full chair of this one and I do not have the time to do both.
Smart.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of like crossover and bleed between the two staffs, and that's absolutely fine. Like, there are only so many people who want to be on staff at a con. It is hard work. You've got to absolutely love the community you're part of.
And it's all volunteer work, to be clear.
Yeah.
And yeah, the people who have been working Furry Cons have been doing it for a while, and they're doing a great job. And they do, particularly smaller cons like this, I find are really like pillars of the community. Because Yabe has commented before that she, or they, I think it's she, I'm not sure.
I think it's she, but let's
stick with they
until we know for sure.
They don't typically do large conventions because they're just too much for them. And that's true for a lot of people. These small local cons are really important to the community, and I will admit, there's just something about a small local con that I love. You get to really interact with people in a way that you don't at bigger cons like Anthro Con.
Like again, there were plenty of people who we kind of just saw throughout the weekend for various things. Like some of the people we met at
Improv,
were saying goodbye to us as we left the con today, and that was a really sweet little interaction. And it didn't need to be anything fancy. It was just an appreciation of the fact that we made friends over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much enjoy. It's one of the nice things about going to smaller conventions is those connections you make with people.
Yeah, this was also in secondary events, which was, I think, our favorite, room of the con generally. It was just nice laid out, air conditioned.
Well laid out space. It was cool. Again, these screens could have been a little bigger. That's the only criticism I have of it.
Yeah. I really love, they mentioned this panel was kind of sort of meant to be like a con horror stories panel, but just kind of more general about like memories and reminiscing, which I admit I prefer. And I love seeing peeks behind the scenes of cons, and you can always tell the ones that are well run by how much of the staff gets along.
Like each other. Yeah.
And aren't interested in stuff like power, but are just interested in putting on a good event. And you definitely saw this. And this is where we got called out for not going to Will technically. It's like, we are sorry.
Again, I genuinely think he wanted to show off the fact that he'd taken our advice on board, and I feel a little bad.
I do too. We didn't know that was why we were supposed to be there. Please be more specific in the future. To be clear, it's just, we're really tickled by the fact that we're so wanted at this con.
Yeah.
More so than anything, that's what these emotions are.
Yeah, especially given that, we aren't particularly furries. We love the furry community.
We do.
We respect you a bunch. I still have no idea what my fursona would be.
Yeah, I don't really...
You would get bored having just one.
I know. I'm sure there's probably a way to hybrid it, but I can't even decide on a name. I tried Odette this weekend and immediately hated it, so... I don't know. But
Okay.
anyway, this panel started in the most delightful way, which is, and this was the panel pretending to do an ASMR panel and then blaming it on the tech crew for not getting their mics correctly, which then caused the tech crew to mess
stick
with
their
them,
mics. Yeah.
as they should have.
Yes. That's the AV equivalent of responding with a middle finger. Like, it's fine. It was funny.
Yeah. They got it fixed by the time the panel started. And then it was a combination of them, like, just talking about various stories. There we did learn about the different hotels that they were at. They were in a hospital once. I can't remember if that was actually part of it or if they were just telling us that afterwards.
No, that was part of it. They were discussing the fact that, like, or it might have been at the beginning before.
Yeah, I think it was when we were kind of bantering with them a bit.
But yeah, like, apparently their first, I think it was their first hotel, was actually originally a hospital that a hotel had bought out and done a bit of a slapdash job of converting, which is that's a choice. But
now you're really cognizant when you say that's a choice.
Yeah, somebody pointed out to me that I use the phrase "that's a choice" quite a lot, which means I've now started noticing it. Thanks, the person who did that. But yes. Yeah, apparently that hotel is no longer there because it's now a parking lot. And apparently it's much improved by being a parking lot, so, you know.
I mean, it's nice to know this because I do realize that, like, this hotel has some problems, but it did confirm what I suspected of, like, this is probably the best of several options that they have.
Yeah, which again is usually true. Like, generally speaking, cons do not pick, you know, imperfect hotels because they look at it and go, oh, this is the perfect hotel, you know, which we can totally afford, but we're going to go somewhere else instead. No, they pick what is the best thing they can afford is generally the way it
best
works.
thing that they can afford, and also I think with furry cons, they do try to be cognizant of what, like, the people who go to furry cons can afford also.
Yes.
Like, if you wanted to do something in the Indianapolis Convention Center, parking would be like $40.
Yep.
And that's just not something some members of the furry community can afford. So I think they do try to make it so that cons are affordable for everyone.
Yes, I think you are right on that front. Like, again, we were paying, you know, $40 a day functionally during Gen Con.
Whereas here it was free.
Yeah. Like, that's a big difference for some people. And I'm not saying it's not a big difference for us. Like, that is an expense I would prefer we didn't have to do, but it was something when we were doing our budgeting for Gen Con, we basically went into it knowing the parking was going to cost us a ridiculous amount of money. So we budgeted for it.
Yeah.
And there are some people who aren't in a position to be able to budget for that.
Yeah. Something else I do want to point out that doesn't really have to do with the panel, but I forgot to mention it about registration is furries really like their artwork. They had 4 different artists do 4 different badge options that you could choose from your badge for this con.
Yes, and this was just a case of pick which one you would like.
Yeah.
So I went with the one that you thought was the most boring option.
It was the most popular one the guy confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Was I did one where it was a cute person getting, or a cute little furry getting sucked into a wormhole.
Valid.
So yeah, I just wanted to call that out. Furries really like their art. The lanyard is also decorated, and it's nice that they really shout out artists as much as they do.
Yes, agreed.
So
well, again, that's very much just the furry community wanting to celebrate the other people in the community, like to a really great degree. Like I've never seen a furry go up to a piece of artwork and tell the person who made it that it sucks. Like, they are always incredibly positive about it just because they love the creativity, and I love that about them. Again, I'm sure there are some terrible people in the community who will go up to somebody and tell them their art sucks, but, you know,
there's terrible people in everyone's communities.
Yeah.
There's some definitely, like, I did notice a couple anti-Nazi furry propaganda. Well, not propaganda, just like Nazi furries suck.
Yeah.
Stuff there. There were no Nazi furries, to be clear.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
We are not aware of any Nazi furries.
We were aware of some great anti-Nazi furries that were there, though.
Yes.
Anywho.
Yeah.
So the panel, again, was largely just silly stories from the con. It was listening to people hang out and talk about, like, how the con started, I think, around 2012, 2013. Its growth. A great video that I sent you about apparently a year where they were at a con with a, like, fraternity organization in the same building.
Yeah. Which, I based on what we've heard, there were some altercations, and then there was a lot of drinking and possibly some singing.
There is a video that's like 30 minutes long that you can watch.
Yes, I have not had a chance to watch it yet.
I haven't really watched most of it either. I did watch the song at the beginning. That was about it, of just like
Turns out both frat dudes and furries enjoy alcohol.
Yeah, go figure.
Who knew?
And alcohol can make almost anyone friends.
If you drink enough of it, yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. I also loved it when you were in the charity pranked the con by pretending not to know what the pet or puppy play panel was.
Yep. It was just like, oh yeah, I really want to go to this panel. I'm looking forward to meeting the puppies. The person who was the charity liaison that basically sprinted full bore out the room, basically yelling, no!
And then just saw them around the corner laughing their asses off.
Yeah. Oh, what you get? Like, they've still got the audio recording of him, like, leaving them a desperately worded message warning them that that's not what this sounds like. He played that audio recording. It was just like, yeah, you can hear the other people in the room laughing at this.
Yeah. And apparently, I think 2 of the people who like worked the con are now like married, and they issued their youngest ever youth badge to their baby, who I think was born a couple weeks before the con.
Yeah, it was like, as they said, I think this is a record. The kid's like 3 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, was that the baby we saw later at the con?
I don't know. I think that's their second baby. I think this was an earlier baby that they had. I don't really know though.
Who knows? But anyway.
So yeah, con lore, stuff like that. I actually think I do prefer this format to con horror stories a little bit. I like both, and this was kind of similar to it, but it had more like reminiscing and like talking about the actual like behind the scenes stuff in addition to the horror stories part. They're not really that different, to be fair.
Here's the thing. I would say they're actually they are approaching the same basic principle from very different directions.
Mm-hmm.
This panel was very much the fun, cozy, light-hearted side of it, whereas Con Horror Stories is, we're going to try and make you laugh by telling you some horrible stuff.
Yep.
And
to be clear, both are done with love. Like Alkali, who typically does Con Horror Stories at cons like this, staffs conventions as well as entertains at them.
Yeah.
Like he's done behind-the-scenes work.
Yeah.
And it's never done without love.
Oh, absolutely. Like, again, you don't do this many conventions if you don't love conventions.
We don't get a lot of horror stories, though. I shouldn't jinx us.
We don't go to the late night stuff.
Yeah, that's most of it. And we also don't staff.
And we don't drink.
Yep. So we don't. But, if you ever want to get on an episode of this podcast and talk about horror stories, we'll absolutely have you.
Yep. I'd say we all... Yep.
We should just do an Airbnb horror story.
No.
I have so many.
You have a PowerPoint presentation. This is not a joke. She has a PowerPoint presentation. What's it officially called? The 36 worst places I lived?
Something like that. For when I was like tertiarily homeless for like 3 or 4 years, it was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were basically just, kind of tail end of grad school, beginning of your career as as an academic, just bouncing between a bunch of
also
really
like
terrible
the pandemic,
Airbnbs.
and like I was by myself. Like my family wasn't there to support me because they're my family. And there wasn't anyone who would like move furniture at that time period, so I just had to keep finding like short-term furnished places because I didn't have any furniture nor any ability to move it, and it was the pandemic.
Yep.
And also the government like didn't seem to realize that there was a class of people like this who weren't like had jobs but had nowhere to live. Like they just didn't know what to do with that subsection of people.
Yep.
So thanks, temporary Airbnb owners who cheaply fix up Airbnbs and are kind of not great people.
Yeah. I think places definitely are not in code.
Anyway.
So yeah.
I really like this con staff. They remembered us from before. They're super nice. To be clear, I don't know all the behind the scenes stuff, but like I really like this as a panel.
Yeah. So did I. It was a lot of fun. So yeah.
And they also had any staff that happened to be in the room come up and give talks, which was cute. So the AV person, I think, came up.
Yep.
One person who was just walking by came up at one point.
Yeah, the AV person basically was just like, somebody needs to man this desk for a second so I can come up and tell a story. And, one of the other con staff who was in the room was like, as long as I don't have to push any buttons, I can do it. And they're like, cool, go. Because again, they just had to make sure that nobody touched anything they weren't supposed to.
Yep. So yeah, for reference, the AV people can prank whoever they want because they control the equipment.
Yes.
No one else should prank anyone with AV equipment.
Correct. The AV people know how to prank people with the equipment in a way that doesn't do any harm to it. Nobody else does. Don't drop mics, for the love of all that's holy.
I am glad we have circled around on that, and now like knowledge that mics are expensive is pretty like well known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't drop mics. Anyway, this panel was great. We talked to some people, I think, before and after it. And we decided to get an earlier night because we knew we wanted to do some late night stuff the next night.
Yes, and some early morning stuff the next day.
Yeah, that too. So we went home. You stopped at Popeyes at a very weird experience.
Yeah, that was a very bizarre experience at Popeyes. Just because I think they were understaffed or something, I don't know. But yeah, I think they were also having trouble understanding my accent through the speaker thing. It took me 5 goes to successfully order what I wanted, and even when we got it, it wasn't quite what I wanted. It was the plain version rather than the spicy version.
Oh, smells violent. I also got some food because my body was just I need something that's more substantive. So I got the one thing that was on the menu that's safe to be, which they sort of managed to get right,
Kind of.
I'm going to pull them they told us to pull into the disabled parking bay.
Yeah. And then just gesticulated at us to come up and get it when it was ready. So I was like, okay, I'll get out and I'll walk over. It was weird.
It was very weird.
It didn't help that we were slightly con drunk at that point. And again, if you've not heard the phrase before, con drunk means we were just high on adrenaline and various other things.
Yeah, it's just when jokes that wouldn't otherwise be funny or funny. That is 3 Squirtle, that is not enough Squirtle, which I'm not going to explain.
We're not going to explain
but
that.
But was hilarious, and we laughed 5 minutes because of that.
Yep, and we still occasionally go back to that just as a reference.
Yeah.
So yeah. It basically just means we're a little out of it just as a result of being a little tired and just having had a lot of fun. And we refer to it as con drunk. Or punch drunk sometimes. So yeah, so back to the Airbnb, sleep, get up, then get dressed. The next day you were in your druid gear.
Yep. So green ball gown that was made for a child, but fits me. Leave me alone.
Yeah, it's a very pretty gown.
It is. I was a little bit nervous about wearing this one because I hadn't worn it at a Furry Con yet. This would be its debut, which is why I wanted to do it on a Saturday. And I was like, I'm not sure this is really going to impress as much as the Monarch dress. I really should not underestimate Furry's abilities to give compliments and appreciate pretty outfits.
Yeah, the only issue with this one is this is the one with the train.
Yeah.
This was the one where I really had to There were times of day when you can walk through the corridor and all you needed was me to keep an eye on it, and there were times when it was just, nope, pick up the back, okay, hike the train, because it was just not safe to have you walk in corridors with that trailing behind you. And that's okay. Again, we are experienced enough at this point that we know the difference between the two, and if one of us is ever unsure, we will usually err on the side of caution and pick it up, just to be more safe. So yeah. So again, I was continuing to wear my human suit.
And yeah, you were on this duty.
Yep.
So the first thing we did in the morning, because I'm going to have an event happen before then, was go to Fursuit Chess, which was at 9:30 a.m. So if you're familiar with cosplay chess, you want to explain that? We've done it, I think, at Colossal.
Colossal was where we did it.
And we've seen it a couple other places.
Yeah. So the principle of cosplay chess is very simple. You set up a giant chessboard, and then people in cosplay are the pieces. There will be 1 or usually 2 people basically playing chess up on a stage who will be directing the pieces where they need to move. And when you get taken as a piece, you are encouraged to, in some way, act out some shenanigans that involves you dying. If you want to do it in character, you can. We've seen one where somebody dressed as Rick Astley just kept pulling a gun on people.
Yeah, that was great gameplay. And how involved this is varies. For Colossal, we had to sign up in advance to do it, and then we also just pulled some random people who were around, which is I think normal. Other places they just kind of just pull whoever is around to do it.
Yep.
I've seen some cons where you have to send in a video audition in advance, and they cast you
based on how well you die.
Yeah. And what your lines are and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it varies a lot in terms of its difficulty. This I think was a last minute addition to the schedule. We know because we were talking to the person who was running it, the Snow Wolf.
Yep.
Afterwards, because we were also roped into volunteering for this.
Yes. Because specifically they wanted, they asked for volunteers to play, to be the players running the chessboard, and we're like, okay, nobody else is volunteering.
So you kind of volunteered, and then I kind of followed you up, and then I think they just decided that I was also volunteering. I was mostly trying to get out of the way since it was in the giant ball gown. But I'm like, well, no one else has volunteered for this, and I think everyone expected you to actually be competent at chess. This was a late edition. I didn't know how many people were going to be at it. I think it was actually very well timed because the fursuit parade, which is what it sounds like, it's the parade of all the fursuiters at the con, was about an hour or so after this.
Yeah,
and
and
this was
started from the same room.
Yeah. So I think a lot of fursuiters just showed up at this room and just kind of did this event.
Because why not?
Why not? Um,
This would. The one thing I will say, this was a little more chaotic than standard cosplay chess,
mhm.
just because they also decided to make it a charity event.
Yeah.
Which meant if you paid money to the charity, you could cheat.
That happened a lot. It
Yeah.
was quite impressive.
So specifically, they basically said, "Yo, okay, if somebody tries to take you $10 and they can't, that just the turn gets skipped. $20 that gets reversed, and they are the one who gets taken instead." So they got into some bidding wars.
Mhm.
I don't know how much money this event raised for charity, but I think it was a lot.
Yeah, it was going back and forth, and we were like, because of how it was laid out. Typically, and I think this is one of the reasons why they like this hotel is there is just I don't know if this is there normally, but like a dance floor for the dance competitions for furries.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a stage, there's a dance floor, and then behind that there's seating. In this case, the seating had been removed.
Which I suspect the seating had all been removed because it was being used as the muster point for the fursuit parade, and they needed as much space as they could get.
So they duct taped just some like X's on the floor to be the board, which I do think were a little bit small. That might be one of my criticisms. That's just kind of minor.
They duct taped a full grid. They did do the full board.
My point is the squares themselves were a little
yes.
bit small, given that everyone was in fursuits, or at least 90% of people were in fursuits.
Yeah, most of the people participating were in fursuits, and yes, I do think if you do it again next year, my two suggestions are: one, make the board bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You had the space for it, make it bigger. That's for normal-sized people. That board would have been perfect. Some of those fursuits were pretty big.
Yep.
And you had like giant tails, flapping everywhere and things like that. Actually, I think I have 3 suggestions. Suggestion number 2: make very clear to everybody kind of how it's supposed to work. I think there was an assumption that people would understand what cosplay chess, or in this case, fursuit chess, was.
I think a lot of people were just kind of wandering into the room because they had nothing to do before the dance comp or the fursuit parade, which is fine. Yep. They seemed like they were having a blast, honestly.
Oh yeah, in particular, like make it very clear that like being taken is not a bad thing. It's your chance to
die and have fun.
Have a fun, overacty death scene, because that is half the fun of cosplay chess. And then, if you're going to let people pay money to cheat, just have a list of like suggested cheat options with some prices attached. Just as suggestions for everybody, because I think that would have sped up the process a little.
Yeah, because there were times where we were like, because my point was that we were solid like, I think 10 or 20 yards away from the board, just because it was on the other side of the room. So like the people who were running the event were having to like run back and forth, being like, okay, that piece was taken. No, actually, it's still on the board. No, actually, that other piece was taken.
Yeah,
we're like, which was making us laugh hysterically.
Oh, we were having a grand.
We were having a blast.
Like we did actually have somebody come up to us later, worried that like the shenanigans that have been going on at like
we're ruining our nice game of chess.
No, we don't care. Neither of us are particularly good at chess.
Well, it was also like the thing about cosplay chess is like people who are running the boards. Like there were times in that game where either of us could have checkmated each other just because of how the pieces were there. Mm-hmm. Like the goal wasn't to win; it was just to move pieces on the board and have fun.
It was to move them in such a way that they had fun interactions.
Yeah, and, having different people like fight each other and stuff like that. That's all we were trying to do.
Like again, it's stuff like if you have, to follow a completely not example that I've never seen happen. If you have a Squirtle cosplayer and a Wicked Witch of the West cosplayer, for the love of God, get them to meet on the chessboard, because that's going to be hilarious.
Yeah. But we did have microphones, which I did appreciate it, and they did have a model chessboard, which is just like a small normal chessboard in front of us, so we could remember where people were.
Yes, I did end up rotating it through 90 degrees so it actually aligned with the board.
Which was helpful.
They roughed out on the floor, just so we could keep track of where everything was supposed to be. But for the most part, everything stayed accurate. Like, I was impressed.
Yeah. Although I will say, because you could just, like, people were, like, at one point we had more pieces than we started with.
Yes.
Because a couple of people, we were short a couple pawns, then some people bought their way into the game later.
Which was great.
Like, yeah, I was hoping everyone was having fun in the chaos. It seemed like they were. It was just kind of hard to tell because we were far enough away that I couldn't tell. People seemed to be laughing, and there were multiple bidding wars going on, and
I think they raised a decent amount for the charity, which is the important
that's
thing.
the goal. And I loved helping with this event. I really did.
I did too. Like, this was very, very fun and very, very silly.
Yeah. And I do think this is actually a really smart time to have this event because it is early in the morning, but if it's in the same room as the fursuit parade and it's before the fursuit parade and people are going to be in costumes there anyway, it's an easy thing for them to do if they just want to get into the room early and have a little bit of fun while waiting. And it's all for charity, so who cares? Like, as a timing for that event, I think that's a great time slot to have that event at.
I would agree. I do think it needed to be an hour and a half time slot rather than just an hour, purely because we ended up just getting everybody to pay $150 total to have a tactical nuke get dropped on the board.
And then I got everyone to like fall. I think that I did mess up the host a little bit because he was trying to do it to a musical cue, which I didn't know about.
Yes, he was trying to do it to the Modern Warfare 2 tactical nuke drop sound effects.
Yeah.
Because he happened to have, the AV team happened to have that.
Which I didn't know, and I felt a bit bad for doing the death scene. I was just trying to encourage them to add. I also just got everyone to howl at one point because I was bored. It was great.
Again, it was nominally like
Cats versus dogs.
Canines versus lupines.
Yeah, or something like that.
Not lupines, canines versus felines. Which again, like, it worked great for the most part. Again,
and it also gives them like a competitive side to kind of battle with, which I think they were having fun with. Yep. I still laugh at the person who did come up to us, I think, drunkenly later the night, like worried they like somehow ruined our game of chess that we were trying to play. Because we were actively, like, I think, talking about like moves together for the most part of just trying to get the pieces to move. And you were proud to do a castle.
Yes. I love the moment when I was just like, okay, the next move we're going to do is the funniest one in all of chess. We're going to castle. And I got a woo from the board, and I was like, yes.
Well, I told you about this weird chess move called the en passant or in passing move, which is a weird way a pawn can take it. I want to pull that in a like cosplay chess game just because it's going to confuse everyone.
Yeah, we'll probably never have the opportunity to do that. But
well, if they want us to help host this event next year, just off the record, I'm just saying, if you want somebody to run the chessboard, we will absolutely do that. We had a blast.
We did. It was a hoot.
Yeah.
So, actually, speaking of hoot, you should mention the friend you had with you.
Oh, yeah, I had an owlbear friend with me.
Yep, who I bought you last week.
Yeah, who I named Owlbird. Get it?
Of course you did. So, yeah.
Who is a snowy owlbear, but I do not feel that, transphobic authors should have a monopoly on snowy animals. It's not associated with the series. It's just a snowy owlbear.
Again, it's an owl bear. It's fine. Yeah. So, what was next?
Improv 202.
201.
Or 201, sorry. With Grandpa Murphy again. So this was a follow-up from the next day. A lot of the same people were in the workshop with us.
Yep.
A little less well-attended, I think, mostly just because the fursuit parade lineup was happening.
Yep. But I think we vastly preferred 201 to 101.
Yes.
Just because it was more of the stuff we personally like.
Improv games, interacting.
Yeah. And again, little less warm-up because at that point people kind of knew what they were doing, which was good. And again, I'm not criticizing 101 for being the basics. I think it is a useful thing to have. I think you and I just need to remember that 101 panels are something we don't necessarily need to do because we've kind of done them enough in the past that we know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I am glad that they have them. Like, it's a good thing to have because again, there were plenty of people who'd never done improv before who did it for the first time.
And because they also had some experienced people, like Sigma obviously has done a lot of improv, and they were playing in that panel.
Yeah. So yeah, again, fun time. I do very much enjoy improv games. Bunch of classics, bunch of silly stuff.
Those leaves on that tree were already changing.
God damn it.
Not yet. I enjoyed it a lot. We had a couple, I do want to shout out the fursuiter who did everything in mime.
Yeah.
I will
say, great choice.
I will say, just because somebody had a bat, and I don't mean like a fursona bat, but a literal bat. Bats should not be improv props in classes.
Yeah, this was somebody who was cosplaying Scout from Team Fortress 2, and they were in character.
Yep.
And if you know anything about Team Fortress 2, you know why that's a problem.
A ball hit me in the leg at one point. To be clear, I want to be clear, the host was reining this in telling people not to do it once it happened.
Yes.
They were very good at like setting and respecting boundaries.
Yes.
It was just in the morning. People were a little hyper. That's all. But I did have fun.
So was that the point at which we got trapped in the room?
Yep. The fursuit parade was outside, and there wasn't anything really from the 11 to 1 period, and I think that's mostly because the fursuit parade makes it difficult to navigate.
Yep. Yeah, we were basically trapped in that room at that point. Now, again, as we pointed out, if we were going to get trapped in a room at this con, that was probably the room to get trapped in.
You're mostly hanging. Iggy was back there, I think, at that point.
Yep.
So was Sigma. I think we were just hanging out with them.
Yeah, we were just kind of hanging around and chatting. But if we'd wanted to go somewhere else, it would have been a bit of a problem. Yep. Just because, again, there were several hundred furries in full suit.
And I was in a ball gown.
Yeah, traipsing up and down the corridor. The one thing I will say that this con does that I actually really like is their map clearly shows what the route of the fursuit parade is going to be. I appreciate knowing that.
I do too. And I want to be clear, we didn't even try to get out of the room. There might have been a way to do it,
but we kind of looked at it and went, yeah, we'll hang out here for a bit.
We'll just wait.
You know, again, I think we ended up chatting to the AV guy at that point for a little bit. Like, we just kind of hung out. It was fine.
Yep.
You know, so as a thing to do, it was basically fine. And it's one of those things. I have noticed that fur cons do frequently not put anything up against the fursuit parade because they know it's going to be real popular.
Well, it's real popular, and also like this, and I think this is true of a lot of fur cons. It's just hard to get in between rooms if you did want to do anything else. Particularly at smaller cons.
Yes. You know, if you've got a bigger con that's got the space for it, like something like Anthrocon, you can, well, at Anthrocon, the fursuit parade basically cuts the convention center in half, so you kind of need to know which side of it you're going to be on. But given that most of the panel rooms are on one side, if you just want to go between panel rooms, you're basically fine. Whereas it's just if you want to get over to the other side of the convention center that you're a bit, out of luck for, a couple of hours. And again, this probably took an hour or so. A rough ballpark guess. Don't know what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about an hour-ish. It was going on like while we were doing the improv show, so there was some like slide over between that. And I think like they did mention like sometimes people go around multiple times because it's basically a loop and people get confused.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which we don't, for the record, we have no idea if that happened this time. We just know it has happened in the past.
So we did that, and then we went to, I think we decided to try the restaurant just because it was, the hallways were packed even after the fursuit parade because a lot of people were mingling in fursuits. So we went into the restaurant, which was an experience.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of weird food getting experiences this weekend.
Yeah. So,
and this is not on the con, I want to emphasize.
Yeah. So yeah, this restaurant was nominally like plane themed.
Because it's an airport hotel.
Yeah. So, like, their main courses were labeled the flight or the main cabin, I think it was. Actually, yeah, I think the restaurant itself was just called the flight or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, we stood by the thing that said, wait here to be seated. And the bartender basically kind of looked at us and went, yeah, and he was just anywhere over there and just kind of gesticulating. Okay. So we grabbed ourselves a booth. Fairly harried-looking waitress eventually came over, left us a couple of menus.
They had, I think, 2 wait staff for the entire bar, and it definitely needed more than that. They were out of cups at one point.
Yep, they ran out of glasses at one point. To the point where when they collected ours, they were like, "You need these? Okay, good. We'll run out." So I was having to go back to the kitchen, like, cool. Yeah, I don't think this hotel was necessarily prepared for quite this number of people.
Yeah, they gave you the entirely wrong meal to start with, which was the next table over.
Yeah, again, that happens at restaurants.
That's fine. And I want to emphasize, I don't really think it's anyone's fault. I think they were just overwhelmed by the amount of people, because there probably aren't typically that many people midday on a Saturday at that con, or at the hotel.
But I had the mushroom stroganoff, which was actually pretty good.
Yeah, and they didn't charge us for the drinks, which is good, because we couldn't get any refills on the menu.
Yeah. And again, when we say drinks in this context, we mean a coconut diet.
Yeah. I don't know why you need to emphasize that we're adults.
Yeah, I know. It's mostly just, again, inadvertently stiffing the, that bar for a couple of sodas is not going to affect their bottom line at all. If, like, we'd been drinking top shelf whiskey and they'd forgotten to charge us for it, I would have felt bad about it. Fair?
Fair.
So, again, a couple of glasses of soda, basically. So, yeah. But again, the stroganoff was perfectly.
It was
That
good.
was
It
quite
did take
nice.
about an hour by the time we sat down and
Yes,
all of that happened. Just
yeah.
because how slow the service was. Which again, I think I was fine with. It was a place to sit down. It was a reasonable temperature and was like further off and was fine. So
Again, I think they were just a bit overwhelmed.
yeah.
Um,
Which is not on the con. They can't control the restaurant.
no. Nice. We just passed a certain mile marker.
Nice.
So yeah, which also means we're 100 miles from home. Yay!
Yay!
So yeah. So what do we do after that?
We went to, at least partially, a Citrine Scouting charity show.
Yes, we did.
This had already started because the food took a while.
Yeah.
We caught the back half of it.
Yes.
So
Citrine the husky, as we mentioned before, is a fairly prominent member of the furry
we
community.
forgot to review because I don't know when we did that. We went to his blind panel earlier, but we didn't talk about it.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I've been bad about the schedule the last couple of days.
That was on Friday, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So Citrine Husky is a husky fursuiter who is also blind.
Mm-hmm. So at 12 p.m., I think this was actually the first thing we did after we stopped by to pick up my disability stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the blind side, which was in panel room 2 by Citrine, and he talked a little bit about his experience of being blind.
Yeah. So this was actually the first time I learned he wasn't born blind.
Yeah, I learned that too. Because obviously I know him as exactly as well as you do.
Yep.
And I don't know how well he even knows us. Like, no offense to him being blind, but I don't know if he has registered our voices as particular people yet.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
That's absolutely fine. But yeah. But again, very prominent, well-known, well-liked member of the furry community, and very willing and open to talk about their disability. I get the impression, based on some of the stuff he was saying during the blind sign panel, that he's given variations of that talk at schools quite a bunch.
Yeah, and he was open about going to a blind school, and basically, I'm fine with saying this because I know he would be fine with me saying this. He was entirely blind in one eye from birth, and then I think around the pandemic, he had sight to the extent that I think you could see very blurry images in his other eye, and then it just kind of went when he tried to get surgery on the eye for, I think, another problem with it. But it was never terribly strong to begin with.
Yeah. So, they are the kind of person who is very, very comfortable making jokes about their own disability and with other people making jokes about their disability.
And they answer basic questions like, why don't I have a guide dog? They were like, well, I have 2 normal dogs, and the guide dog would mostly just get jealous about why, or the other dogs would get jealous because the guide dog would get to go with them everywhere, and they wouldn't. They would think that's unfair.
Yep. And again, they are somebody who is very willing to answer questions about their disability in a way that is not the easiest thing in the world to do, but is very helpful. As they said, there are no stupid questions when you're talking to a disabled person. If they are open and willing to talk about it, ask them. If it's something they don't want to discuss, they will just say, I'd prefer not to talk about that, and that is valid. Yeah,
they talked about the different types of Braille that exist, like long form and short form Braille. Somebody asked them if they think that people who lack sight have stronger other senses, and they were pretty honest. And I suspected this, that it's not that the other senses are stronger, it's just that you pay more attention to them because your dominant sense is gone, so your ears are going to be stronger in the sense that you're paying a lot more attention to noise than you would be if you were a sighted person.
Yeah. Because again, the human brain is very good at focusing and filtering.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to try and pick up everything it can from the audio stimuli because it doesn't have visual stimuli to work with.
He also made, I think, some blind badges and blind con books and schedules and stuff like that for on a device that he was apparently given by the Schools of the Blind that is from the 1970s, because they're super expensive but last a long time, that allow you to basically type in Braille.
Yep. Which is a cool device.
Yeah. And talk about the screen readers and stuff he uses, and it was really cool and informative panel. Somebody who does disability studies, it's always nice to see. And we were on stage with him later, so.
Yep. So sorry we forgot about that panel earlier.
Sorry, again, it was just the first thing, and I think I scrolled over it.
Yeah. But so we then
back to his charity concert, which was basically, he's also an amazing singer and vocalist. And we've been to some of his charity stuff, before, and he's, I don't know, I really like his music style a lot, and the way he does music. So, in this particular case, you could donate money to charity to pull a card out of a hat, which would have an artist on it. and this would be written by his friends. It would be artists he at least knew one song of, and then you could like pick a particular song, or if you didn't know a particular song by that artist, he would pick one.
Yep. There were a couple that he really liked who he did little medleys of.
Yeah.
Like, this was a fun little charity panel.
Yeah. It was fun to like shout and do. It was everything from like Weird Al, Miley Cyrus, Reba McEntire was on there.
Yep. Yeah, all sorts of weird bits and bobs.
Yeah, I think a member of the furry community was on there who also does musical performances. But yeah, I really like his stuff. It was really cute and fun. So I think after that, let me just double check because I don't want to miss another panel. Was Task Senpai.
Ah, yes, Task Senpai. So, for anybody not familiar with Taskmaster, it's a British comedy show that's now got a bunch of spin-offs all over the world.
Which everyone's really worried about copywriting by just like doing it at cons and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't think that the British government's going to care all that much.
Yeah.
Are those sheep?
No, those are signs.
I don't want signs, I want sheep.
There. Yeah, so the basic principle of Taskmaster is you get a group of comedians together, they get given a bunch of ridiculous tasks to do basically in the funniest way they can. Those tasks are then judged by Greg Davis, the Taskmaster, and points are awarded, and the winner of each episode gets a bunch of random stuff that are brought in as the prize task, which is always the first task of the episode. And then those comedians continue on and do an entire season, and then each season they swap out with new comedians. So Taskmaster has been one that we thought would be a really good idea for a convention before. We did actually submit it as a potential panel to Techo. They didn't take it because I think they just had enough panels. We submitted it fairly late. Mm-hmm. That's fine. We're not bitter or anything.
That sounded really bitter.
Yeah, I know. It's great, isn't it?
We're not actually bitter. We don't care.
When we were planning it, we would have just been doing the tasks live with audience members. This was actually very interesting because they actually pre-recorded the tasks.
They did. They recorded them in a park next to somebody who might have been shooting an OnlyFans shoot.
Yeah. There were some suspiciously, sexy women taking photos in the background of...
a charades test they were doing.
Yep. Which was kind of hilarious. So they did the whole 9 yards. They pre-recorded the tasks. Somebody did a whole bunch of editing to get them ready.
Yep. And there were people on stage then defending themselves. Iggy was one of the hosts. I think, I don't remember what the other one was.
The other one was one of the AV team who...
Oh, yeah, Sean.
Sean, who I think...
And for record, Sean is on their badge, so that's what I'm calling him.
Yes. But I think it was a case of Iggy got asked to do it because...
Sean might not have been able to make it, and then they didn't want to tell Iggy no, so they just kind of became co-hosts, which I thought worked fine.
Yeah, it worked fine. The person hosting this is hilariously also named Alex, which if you've seen actual Taskmaster, you'll know why that's funny. So they were the one who were doing the wrangling and then had people turn up and do the tasks, and I adore the fact this was really good. I only have one criticism of this, and just because of the way the room was laid out with the dance floor, we were sitting relatively far back, despite being in the first row. It would have been nice to be closer to the stage, but that's the worst complaint I have.
It replicated the series very well, and it was live done, and it was really great. I liked it a lot.
I liked it a lot too.
I also just the person who edited everything together. Shout out to them. It worked well as a live show type performance. We were keeling each other laughing at certain points.
Oh yeah. Oh god, the palette paper. Yeah, but there was one moment that just, as somebody who uses palette paper, completely killed me.
For me, it was just your at-home task, because they had to do one task at home because most of it was together, was just all that you had to do was make a video that promoted it, this event, and whichever got the most likes would win the task.
Yep.
Unfortunately, out of the 5 of you, I only got 2 videos, one of which was a 5-minute Labubu unboxing.
So one person's getting 5 points by default because I'm the only one who did it and followed the rules.
The person who was the woo woo unboxing was, listen, I had to take over my kid's YouTube channel to film this because it was the only access to social media I had, and the only content they film right now is the boo boo unboxings.
So yeah, that was a hoot. I had a lot of fun with that. Apparently, they think it went a lot better than last year, for just like a few technical reasons. And like, you know, again, we didn't see it last year. We weren't at this con last year, but no, this was very good.
Yeah, and everyone got the assignment. Like, Taskmaster generally is something where you have to be willing to like fail upwards and make yourself the butt of the joke, and they all got the assignment.
Yep. Like again, it's very much a case of the reason that the American version didn't work when they piloted it was the American comedians were trying to be cool, whereas the British comedians understand that you need to be willing to make an idiot of yourself for comedy. Now that might just have been they picked the wrong comedians to, to be guests, but again.
Yeah. Like, there was one task where they had to like get ducks to face north for some dumb reason. And like, they could have used their phones, but I think they all thought that would be lame, so they just chose not to.
Yeah, they were all just trying to, like, one of them was like, okay, so this tower is in the east, and there's a west tower over there, so north would be this way. And they pointed everything directly south. And I don't think they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, it was this panel was a lot of fun. We very much enjoyed this.
We did. And I was a bit nervous because I was worried about like watching stuff on screen wouldn't be as entertaining, but the like cut back between live and like on the feed was great, and it was just great generally.
So, yeah, as I say, my only complaint: let us sit closer. That's it. That's the worst I had.
And like, thank you to ever put this on, because this is something that's obviously a lot of work to like splice together that much edited footage, because all these tasks presumably took 20 minutes, and you have to boil them down to like 5 minutes of clips. So that's hard to do.
Yeah, like I hate editing. I would not want to go through that.
Which is why we have an unedited podcast.
Yes, that's why the extent of the editing on this podcast is occasionally I splice things together. I never cut anything because that's way too much work. So yeah. Task Senpai, that was an absolute hoot. Would 100% go to that again. If you do it next year, have fun, you crazy, crazy people. Also, I did love the rules arguments where they were trying to figure out whether or not the fursuiter's gloves counted as touching stuff.
Yeah, one of the people, of course, did this in full fursuit, which was, honestly, they should have gotten extra points just for that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I was talking to the person who edited it later, and they're actually kind of disappointed they didn't have a tie, because they did go to the trouble of having a tiebreaker task prepped, and it was a really stupid one, so maybe they'll get to use that again at some point in the future. Yeah. What was after that?
It was Iggy and Pal's music show.
Yes.
Which Iggy, I think, was mostly hosting, but kind of hanging out off stage on, which is fine.
Yep.
They are probably quite tired.
Yeah.
Citrine was in this. Somebody called Rhubarb Nito was in this. In theory, their name's on the thing. And this was basically showcasing some musicians who, it was kind of like a variety show talent act.
Yeah. Various musicians from around the furry fandom who do all sorts of interesting things. I'm incredibly ticked off because one of the people up there was playing the violin in full fursuit better than I can play it naked. Or at least shirtless.
No, and naked too.
Yeah,
having the penis out doesn't really help much.
No. What I will say is, if you've ever played the violin and you've never, just tried doing it shirtless, try it. Trust me. But yeah, like, they had some very, very talented people up there doing some really fun stuff. And that violinist was phenomenal. One of these days I might buy myself an electric violin. It's just they're expensive and I wouldn't play it enough to be worth it. And,
you don't play your violin enough now.
Exactly. That's why it wouldn't be worth it.
I also really like this. The furry community has so much talent in it. And it was just a nice little variety show to kind of see.
Yeah. Again, relatively light. Nothing too complicated or heavy, but like it was good. We had fun. I did have my eyes closed for parts of it, which I do always. I really enjoy listening to music with my eyes closed. I worry it makes me look like I'm not paying attention. But like I also like playing music with my eyes closed because it just lets me focus entirely on the music. The only photo of myself that I've seen that I didn't immediately hate is one of me playing my violin with my eyes closed.
Multiple people have sent us photos from this weekend, honey.
Yeah. Photos of myself specifically. I look awkward in all photos. I'm sorry if you took a photo with me, but I look awkward in it.
You literally asked somebody to send you a photo.
Yeah, I did. I look awkward in it.
You haven't even looked at it.
Yes, I have.
God damn it.
But yeah, like for the record, if you want to take a photo with us, we're very happy to do it.
Yeah, no, I will jump into any photos. Like, I'm gonna ball gown as a compliment.
Yeah. It's mostly just, again, like I'm very self-conscious about how I look in photos.
Anyway, this was a great, well-run event.
It was
at this point, I think, getting a little concerned about how much he was doing this weekend, knowing his health, but that is his choice.
Yeah. he seemed to be making it work.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's going to go home and collapse, but, you know.
Yeah.
Half the people going to this convention are going to go home and collapse. We're going to go home and collapse. Like,
yeah.
Well, we're going to go home, I'm going to empty the car, and then we're going to collapse. So, yeah. So that was, again, relatively light, but that was fun. And, you know, I do enjoy there is something about live music that's hard to beat sometimes. It's really hard to define, but if you've not been to live music, there's something about it that's just better than recorded music in ways that I cannot explain. I don't know what it is. I don't know how you feel.
I will admit I'm a person who doesn't really like feel the same like obsession with music that I think a lot of people find, but I will say there were definitely moments during that where I was just kind of crying a little bit and feeling the emotion with you. So again, it's incredible, and like honestly my thoughts throughout it were just like the furry community is so talented. And I really do love that the furry community like makes themselves what the con is about. Like they celebrate artists and they celebrate all forms of art, and that's awesome.
Yeah, whether that be the suits themselves, whether that be, you know, art that's been drawn, art that's been animated, music, you know, storytelling, writing. Like, they love to celebrate all of it in ways that I do adore. So, was it the improv show after that?
We did get the back half of Charity Dungeons and Dragons, which was interesting. I will admit, I think we had to like be on stage for the improv show, so I was trying to stock myself up, and two, like we've been to two kind of long panels in a row. I lost the ability to actually pay attention to this, so I don't know if it's even fair to rate it.
Yeah,
I'm kind of more just sitting in it than actually paying attention to it.
Which again was fine.
Yeah, it seemed like people there were having fun. And they did have something where they like
they had some charity stuff.
They had some charity stuff. The players did not know the characters they were playing,
which is always an interesting thing to do in a one shot.
Yeah, where like you don't know your character and you just kind of find out what you can do as the adventure goes along.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I would like to roll an intimidation check. Cool. You're going to be rolling that at a -3. Oh, bother. You know, it's that kind of thing. Or, you know, okay, I'll roll investigation. Yeah, you have a +4 in that. Oh, sweet. You know, and you just kind of find out things as you go along.
Yeah, which I think the people in it were having fun, and it seemed like the group was entertaining and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. And again, this was another one that was raising money for charity. And interestingly, this one did the thing that I thought Cosplay Chess should have done, which is they basically just had a board with a bunch of prizes on it. So it was things like audience inspiration, which was you paid X amount, and in exchange, on their next roll or when they wanted to use it, the player on stage would have a bonus dice of inspiration, similar to Bardic Inspiration, and depending on the size of the donation you get, determined what type of die it was. So the lowest was a D6, and I think it went up to about a D12 of just like bonus, which is that's honestly a really fun little idea as a way to let the audience participate a bit. And there was also they had one of those giant novelty D20s that are like an inflatable one, and one of the things was you paid X amount and you could roll that the next time something had to get rolled. Again, lots of great little things to get the audience involved, raise a bit of money for the charity. Like this was it was a very well run D&D panel.
Yeah, we just walked into it late and we're tired, and the only thing I could focus on was like when the next my book with the Hunger Games and finally get to like the child murder part of the Hunger Games is actually interesting as opposed to the political like scandal stuff where I'm just like, yes, I get this plot point already.
Oh, I thought you finished that.
I did. I'm now reading the sequel.
Oh, okay. There's a sequel to the prequel?
Yes, there's a sequel to the prequel that takes place in between the sequel and the original series.
Okay. So it's a midquel.
Yes.
Okay. I knew I didn't even know that existed. I knew there was a prequel.
It came out this year. It's more just like the Hunger Games books or something I can pay attention to when my brains are turned off because like their messaging is not that subtle, so it's pretty easy to like read if you want something light.
Yep. Again, I've got books like that. There are certain books that I will just put on to listen to when I do not want to like rankle my brain with anything complicated. Yeah, so yeah, that's fair. But yeah, like it looked like they were doing a good job. Everybody seemed to be having a good time. We just came in fairly late as a result of just.
So the only thing I could focus on was the same message about dystopian societies and capitalism that they all tell. Like all of them have the same message at the undertone of what causes it. So.
Yep. Money is the root of all problems.
Yeah.
So yeah. So then was the improv show?
Yes.
Yes. So this was Iggy's improvisation.
Iggy's egg-citing improvisation.
Sorry, I forgot it was exciting. Which again, good. Oh, the puns. But yeah. So this was five people up on stage.
And I think
Iggy was hosting.
Pandez is listed on here, and they were in the previous panel, but they weren't at this one. Not judging.
Yeah, they probably got roped into something else.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of like bodies moving around, as evidenced by the fact that we were on stage.
Yep.
This is going to be a little bit hard for us to review since we were in it.
Yes. So basically, we were asked to do this because
I was nervous about this.
Yeah. Which again, Iggy's seen us do improv before.
We've volunteered for improv before, but we've not been part of an improv show at a con before, like a full-on show. And Iggy does pick more difficult games. Or at least games that I think most people would find a little bit more difficult. I don't actually know if they actually are.
They're more long form.
Yes.
And they do require you to be a little more. Here's the thing: something like World's Worst. You go up, you say one joke, you back up.
Yeah, and if you don't have anything, you don't have to say anything.
Yeah. Whereas with the longer form games, it takes a little bit more to.
I was nervous about this because for one thing, like I've not done this before, and for two, the people who we're replacing are Boozy and Alkali, who are much more trained, much more professional, and can carry a crowd a lot better than either of you or I can.
Yes.
And like to be clear, no one on stage expected us to be Boozy or Alkali levels of funny.
No.
They just expected us to help out.
Yeah. Oh, that was a late decision, matey. Fine, you made it.
But I think we accomplished my goals for the panel, which is. One, at one point I made Iggy laugh so bad that he hurt his kidneys and had to run off stage briefly.
Why was that one of your goals?
Because it means I succeeded. Another goal I had was basically, there were more people in the audience at the end than there were at the beginning, which I presume means people liked it enough to stay and watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and fun fact, today, while you were kind of quickly nipping to the bathroom just before we headed out, somebody came up to me, realized that I was one of the people who was on the improv panel, and was actively telling me that we should have a YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I gave him a business card.
Oh, that was who you were talking to.
Yeah. So if you end up listening to this podcast, thank you. Yeah. We appreciated that.
Is that for both of us, or just for you?
Just for me, because he didn't realize we were specifically together. But yeah.
Presumably he liked me too. So.
Oh yeah. Like again, when I said we have a podcast, he was like, "Oh, that's really cool."
Yeah.
But again, I don't know to what degree people in that audience who didn't already know we were a couple realized we were a couple.
That's fair.
But yeah. So, no, this was a lot of fun. We got to do some games we don't normally get to do.
It was kind of on my wish list to just be able to play like long form games with Iggy, and I'm glad we got to do it before. Hopefully the surgery.
Yes. So like among other things, I ended up doing Man on the Street, which is one where I'm looking towards the audience
Mm-hmm.
There is a video playing behind me that is hopefully in some way funny, and I have to answer questions about it without being able to see it.
Mm-hmm. I had to do one where I had somebody had a script to a movie and I didn't have any of my lines, which I got weirdly correct.
You got weirdly close.
He was impressed by that.
Yeah.
There's also when I said sent him off the stage and knocked off his kidney. The one thing is just this. I think the one criticisms, if you can have that, is the stage was small and all of us were stubborn.
Yeah, okay. We do need to talk about what everybody on that stage was wearing.
So it was you, me, Iggy was the host, Yabe was there, Citrine was there, and Sigma was there.
Yes. And Sigma and Citrine were both wearing their full fursuits.
And keep in mind, Citrine is blind. And I was in a ball gown with a train. In part because you forgot the outfit I was supposed to change into.
Yes.
But I probably wasn't going to change into that anyway
because
I'm stubborn.
Too stubborn. So
there were definitely times on stage where you could not see everyone who was in the scene, but no one died.
Yes, we made it through without Citrine, Sigma, or you falling off the stage.
And Icky was really excited to host this because he was not the most likely to die during this. And that was my third goal, is just no one dies.
Yes. Also, can I say, this is actually the first time I think that I've seen Sigma's full fursuit. It's gorgeous, buddy.
Yeah.
Love that thing. And I think it's also the first time seeing Citrine's full fursuit. His is wrapped in bubble wrap.
Oh yeah, yeah. You said he was the FedEx for that day. I don't know the entire lore behind that. Fair enough.
Solid joke. Good job, buddy.
Yep.
So yeah. So that was fun. That was very silly, but that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to say it was our best improv performance ever, but I think we held our own.
I think we held our own. I definitely think it took me certainly a little while to warm up.
I think it took me a little while too, and it didn't help. We had, I think, a fair-sized crowd, and I was proud of that. It wasn't. We were opposite the fursuit dance competition, so it wasn't like a big crowd, and you'd have to work a little bit harder. So I think both us and the crowd took a couple games to really warm up. But by the end, we were getting the laughs that I wanted to get. So,
which again is not at all uncommon with any kind of comedy show.
Yeah.
The crowd takes a little while to warm up. The performers take a little while to warm up. That's fine. There's a reason why professional comics frequently have warm-up acts before them to get the crowd ready for the real material.
I will admit, I do think I actually prefer a little bit more structure to my improv games. I prefer stuff like party quirks or something like that to Scenes from a Hat, just because it gives me a little bit more direction to go with my comedy. Where Scenes from a Hat, it's hard for me to get a punch laugh in there very easily unless I'm doing a callback. So it's hard for me to do Scenes from a Hat first because I can't do callbacks or anything like that might get a bigger laugh.
Yes.
I still got a couple chuckles from that one.
You did. And again, I freely admit that I did actually quite enjoy Man on the Street just because I figured out it involved aircraft.
Yeah.
Kind of. And I was like, does this involve aircraft crashing into water? Yeah, surprisingly. And I'm like, how is that funny? And I turn around and it's that stupid Red Bull flying machine competition where you basically build a quote-unquote aircraft and then you jump off a pier. And the whole goal is for just who gets the furthest wins, and furthest means 5 feet. Most people would jump further.
Yeah. My favorite, I think, was Iggy has one where one person is doing a scene and the other two can only read lines from these weird books that Iggy has on his bookshelf. I had been wanting to do that one for ages, and I finally got to.
Yeah, I initially volunteered for that, and you basically just said, "Can I do it, please?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. There you go."
We have no concept of how entertaining this was to an audience. We had fun though.
We had a lot of fun, and it sounded like we were getting a few laughs.
Yeah. And thank you, Iggy, for offering this to us.
Yes.
I will say that both Iggy and Sigma were very much you don't have to do this to us when we were volunteering. And I'm, of course, hell yeah, I want to do this.
Yep. And
you were like, well, maybe we'll do this. And I'm like, no, hell yeah, we're doing this.
I get voluntold to do things. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, you also want to do them. You just are less you're more of a wade into the pool type person. I'm more of a jump into the pool type person.
This is not a metaphor. This is how we each get into a swimming pool.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. Again, I really wish the indoor pool at the university would they closed it during COVID and they never reopened it, which is really annoying because that's before we both got there. So we have to use if we want to go swimming, we have to use the outdoor pool that's in the town, which will be fine apart from the fact it gets used as a dumping ground by the parents who don't want to look after their kids.
Okay, we're not even all the way through Saturday yet, and we've got 70 miles.
We're fine.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah.
No one's gonna listen to this. Iggy said he barely got through the first half episode. In fairness, he was dying in kidney pain, so, you know.
Oh, dear. Yeah, we actually had a lot more to talk about at this con than I thought we did, I'm not going to lie.
I'm not remotely surprised at all. You seem to be somehow. We did a ton of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, this was... Thank you very much for inviting us on.
Thank you. This was fantastic.
We had a great time.
Like, every time you do long form improv in particular, I always want to be on stage with you, and I'm glad we really got the chance to do that.
Yeah, like, again, things like Who's Line, which deliberately like get a lot of people up and do some shorter things, are also an absolute blast and an absolute scream. But like we do love it, longer form improv as well.
And both to you and Sigma, and to anyone else at this convention who like asked us to do stuff at this convention, the fact that you want us doing stuff at your con is there's not a higher compliment than that.
We thank you. It really does mean a lot to us.
Are you crying?
No, but I'm thinking about it. So, what the heck did we do after that?
We went briefly to Spicy Writing for Adults
Yes.
by Sarah Thin. This was something to sit down at because we both do spicy writing occasionally. I don't know if we should admit it on the podcast. We just did.
It's
and
fine.
you don't have to edit it out.
Yeah, we have done it in the past. I don't think either of us has written anything particularly spicy for quite a while just because life got complicated.
Oh, now we're doing this.
Yeah.
And this was cool. People mostly kind of sharing their stories and stuff like that. Again, I think I was just mostly still in kind of adrenaline high. I can't pay attention to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like it was a nice enough panel.
It was. Again, I think it was another one that suffered from just the room was very crowded.
Yeah, this was in a small panel room 2 room. And I will say, I would have preferred a little bit more structure and planning from the host.
Yeah. Either that or a lot more audience participation.
Yes. It wasn't bad by any means. People in it seemed to be enjoying it, and it was fun. It's just those panel rooms were quite small and difficult to get into, and obviously because it was spicy writing, it was plus 18. I do want to highlight any plus 18 panel at this con. Our IDs were checked.
Yes. They were very good about that, which again, I always like to see. Again, especially at cons where, while it's true that after a certain time of night, most furry cons do basically assume everybody's going to be plus 18, it is good to make sure. Because again, especially if you are in a con space where people can just kind of go in and out of stuff, have somebody ID checking the doors just to be on the safe side. Like, if it's a con like MCFC, which is purely an over 18 con,
and you have to show your ID to get a badge.
yes, then you don't need door checks. That's fine. Whereas this is an all ages con. If you have a kid, you can bring them. So if it's a plus 18 panel, you do need to be checking, and they were. Good job.
So after this was Bad Fanfic Theater, because I was making you do a late night tonight. I'm like, this is our last con of the summer. I want to live it up to 1 a.m., which is not that late for a lot of you, but is for us.
It's late by our standards.
So we did Bad Fanfic Theater. This was a good rendition of this. This was by, one of the hosts could not make it. They're both listed here. I'm not sure which one was actually there, so I'm just going to say both their names, which is Rai, the White Mage, and Ernor, I think is how you say that.
I think they were the one who was there, but I'm not.
They were sitting next to us also in MST3K and talking to us a bunch, so they were nice enough.
Yeah, they were a very nice person.
Yes.
I gave them one of our cards, so they might be listening to this.
Oh, cool.
So,
sorry. When I say nice enough, I mean you were actually quite nice.
Yeah. Like, again. So, again, this was your classic, we're going to read some terrible fanfiction panel.
They read, for the most part, they read Sonic High School.
Yes, which is a classic in the bad fanfiction genre.
And they apparently have been reading it for the last 3 years when they've done this panel.
Yeah.
So we're on, I think, chapter...
I think we got through, like, chapters 10 to 14, somewhere in that ballpark. For the record, I think Sonic High School is like 50 chapters long. I've not checked. But I think it is a lot longer than you think it's going to
And it's one of those ones that's like borderline, maybe written by like a teenager going through some stuff, and maybe we're writing by a satire artist. It writes that line really well, similar to My Immortal.
You can't tell if it's a joke or not, which
that's
does
what good bad fan fiction is. Yeah.
It's the same reason I love reading Comics Nix's stuff at conventions, because again, Comics Nix is another one where you It's so bad you can't tell if it's a joke or not.
Yep. And bad writing is an art.
Oh, it is. Like, if you're doing it on purpose, it is an art form. If you're not doing it on purpose, I'm sorry. But yeah, like, I maintain Sonic High School reads like a 13-year-old who was going through some stuff and was trying to, like...
Well, it's definitely written by a boy who is about our age, given that, like, when it was written, they were talking about how much you shouldn't be gay, which is what I think every boy your age was obsessed with back when they were a teenager.
I do, in fact, remember using gay as a pejorative insult when I was
not,
too
by the
young
way.
to actually understand what the word means. Again, very sorry. At the time, like, I am aggressively pro-LGBTQ rights.
And trans rights, that's included.
Rights.
You said the T, sorry.
I said the T. Yeah.
Sorry, it's just like your country has so many turfs. I feel the need to clarify.
Yeah,
we're like fine with gay people, but not fine with trans people.
Yeah,
clearly
screw turfs.
Yeah.
Actually, don't screw turfs; they don't deserve it. But yeah, what I will basically say was, again, like, I remember being the kid who would use gay as an insult because they didn't actually really realize what it meant, and I'm sorry. I thankfully grew out of that once I actually started to get an understanding of it in any real capacity, and for the record, most people I know also did that.
And also, to just gloss over something we mentioned earlier, you were also maybe slightly drunk at this point because you tried mead weirdly.
Yeah,
because I think it was after the D&D panel when we were waiting in the back of the room for improv to start. The sound guy, which was a different sound guy from Sean, who was one of the sound guys.
He was the sound guy who did all the editing on Task Senpai.
Yes.
That's why he started talking to me.
Yep, because he wanted to get your thoughts on it, I think, and then just said he was working on a mead and wanted people to try it. So.
Because he thought something had got a bit weird with the batch, but he couldn't figure out what the heck it was. And to be fair, I also couldn't figure out what the heck it was. I enjoyed it, but if he hadn't told me it was a mead, I wouldn't have been able to tell that.
Fair.
So yeah, I was quite happy to give him what little feedback I could. But yeah, so
it was just a fun little moment.
Yeah, and it wasn't like I drank a lot of it. Like, I drank a small paper cup. Oh, by the way, this is one other thing I want to complain about the hotel about. For the love of God, the tiny plastic or the tiny paper cones for your water. Please switch that with something else. Like, paper cups are fine, just not the cones. You can't put them down. They are so annoying, and they hold almost nothing.
Yeah, there were water stations set up, which is good,
and
water was free.
Yes.
It was kind of warm at certain points because it just stopped being iced. So.
Yes.
And the one in the back in the fan fiction room, you got the last drops of water out of that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, which again, like, that's not on anybody in particular. Like, it had just run out, and whoever was responsible for switching just had not got around to switching it yet. Fine, that's gonna happen.
Anyway.
But yes.
Bad fiction was good. My one criticism is, again, I do wish there were microphones in the room just because it was a little bit hard to hear at certain points.
Yeah.
And the person was doing a lot of funny accents for the characters, which I thought was really good for voice differentiation, but was a little bit harder to hear given the lack of microphones.
Yes, for some of them. And basically, after they did the first chapter, they invited volunteers up in the audience to read the narration while they continued to read.
And I pleaded with you to do this because I love you narrating bad fanfiction.
Yeah, I know you do. So yes, I think I was the second person to go up.
And I think all 4 people who wanted to go up did get a chance to. So.
And yeah, so he actively switched Sonic's voice to be British when he realized that my accent wasn't a bit.
And then somebody said your accent is perfect for this, and I'm like, yeah, I know. I make him do this all the time.
Yeah. Again, I have a fairly well, let's face it. At one point, I narrated the entirety of Matilda.
I was about to say that was one of the moments when I really fell in love with you, and you did that.
Because again, you really like Matilda the book.
Mm-hmm.
So this is while we were still, long distance.
Yeah. For the record, the stage show and the movie, or I would say, movie's fine, stage show is pretty good, book's better than both of them.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you on that. So yeah, I recorded the entire, I had to find my copy of it which did involve like digging through the attic because that one.
This is not a romance podcast.
Yeah, I know, but I love you.
I love you too, but we need to review the con.
That's fair.
We're not even to Sunday yet, and we're getting close to Zanesville.
No, we're not. We're still 50 minutes from home.
Okay, you think you can do this in 50 minutes? Thank you
Yeah.
to anyone who's somehow listening to this.
Yeah, if you're listening to this entire podcast, we're very sorry.
We're definitely still con high.
Oh, yeah. Which again, like, I'm not going to lie, doing this podcast is actually super helpful for me because it keeps me awake on the drive home.
I'm not tired.
Yeah, I know. I am. But, the adrenaline.
I got like 3 hours of sleep last night.
Yeah. So, so as a bad fan fiction reading panel, this was a very good example of it. The host was clearly having a blast. Maybe a little more variety wouldn't have hurt. Like,
Having different fan fictions and stuff, but Sonic High School is kind of hard to beat. It just works so well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sonic High School is very, very funny, and if he just basically wants to spend the next 5 years of cons working his way through it, fine. It will be funny. It'll draw crowds. It's good.
Yep.
So yeah, we then stayed in that room
for 6-2-1 feud.
Yep.
I don't even know if I can explain what 6-2-1 is if you do not know.
Okay, if you're on a work computer, do not Google E621. You will get fired.
So,
That's all I'm going to say.
E621 does have some safe for work pictures on it. It just isn't exclusively that.
Yes. It's basically a repository of furry art.
Yes.
And it has a lot of tags that are the kind of thing that will get you fired if you search for them at work.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the detail I'm going to go into, because again, this podcast is nominally safe for work.
Yeah. So I do think there's some that we can talk about in relation to this, or at least the examples I gave will all be safe for work. So 6-2-1 feud is it's Family Feud.
Yep.
So you guess answers. I'm not going to explain the concept of Family Feud, but you're guessing halves of tags on the website.
Yes.
So like broken was one of them, and I'm sure you can think of not safe for work versions of that, but one of the tags was broken heart, which I thought of.
Yes,
so.
Or broken glasses was another one in that one. And rather than doing this the way Family Feud normally is done, where it's we surveyed 100 people, this was done by relative popularity of the tag.
Mm-hmm.
So for some of them, the tag had 2,000 entries relative to 50 entry or 500 entries. So again, what percentage of what was listed was there?
One of my favorite was one of the tags was breaking, and the person was just like, because everyone of course thought Breaking Bad, and then the person there was just like, well, there's not going to be furry art of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, there is. Because one of the other rules that they had was each team could ask for one hint.
Yep.
And be shown an image that had the particular tag.
Which there was a lot of homework done on this, because there were 6 different prompts, all of which had 8 things, and they had to find images of those. Some of which were safe for work, a lot weren't.
A lot of them weren't.
This is a very much plus 18 panel. It is worth noting.
And again, ID checked at the door.
Yeah, we were in the room already, but we had to be ID checked for the previous panel, so that was fine. Everyone else who came in was ID checked again.
Yes.
So,
this was a very well put together panel. We did not volunteer to participate in this one.
No, because, and this is not us just lying about it, we don't frequent this website and don't really know much about furry kinks. We still got some right, though.
We still got some right, because there were some fairly obvious choices, and that's fair. But, so basically, rather than do the usual Family Feud where it's 2 teams facing off against each other, they actually ended up doing 4 teams. Each of whom basically did it by, each of whom did 1 round. And then the top 2 scoring teams faced off against each other in the final. Just kind of going back and forth, which I think worked pretty well. As a format to get a few more people up for a Family Feud style panel, I think it worked quite well. They were originally going to do 3-person teams, then they saw how many volunteers they had, and they upped it to 4.
Yep.
Which, again, all they really had to do was grab a spare chair and stick it at the front. So,
and you were allowed to, unlike regular Family Feud, collaborate with each other. I will say you could choose between easier board, medium board, or harder board, but the points were doubled and tripled on the medium and harder boards respectively.
Which basically meant nobody picked easy, because you were basically
mathematically, if you got half the stuff on the medium board, it would be the same. So pretty much everyone just picked hard boards.
Yes,
which
the
fine.
first team did medium, and after that, everybody did hard because they kind of had to.
Because you basically only have to get the top answer on hard, and you do get the cheat of like looking. So it just made more logical sense to do that.
Yeah,
So.
which again, like maybe reduce the score modifiers a bit next year, just so people don't feel pressured to have to pick the hard ones.
Yeah, just so you can get a little more variety. But again, that's a really minor criticism. This event
Yeah.
isn't like meant to be competitive.
No,
it's just silly.
Meant to be fun, and it was fun. And
It
again,
was.
like this was a 3-person team doing it, so basically one host, one person running the laptops, and one person who was actually picking the teams. And I think they worked well as a group in terms of, you know, having the right dynamics, having the right vibes, and just knowing what needed to be each other's jobs. If that makes sense?
Yeah. And one of them said, himbo puppy on them, and I was attracted to that. I don't know what to. You can do what you want with that information.
Valid.
I said that to you.
Yeah. I'm not a jealous person. Like, you were allowed to be attracted to other people.
I am disappointed because I do think I got hit on more at this con than you did. Because I definitely got hit on at least once.
No, I got hit on a couple of times.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw it.
Did I?
Yeah.
When?
In the corridor at least a couple of times.
Okay, good.
You were definitely getting noticed more than I was and complimented on your
Okay.
fashion
I was just more explicitly hit on at this furry con than I am at most furry cons. Because, partially because, no offense, most people at furry cons are gay and also kind of like gay into men, which is absolutely fine.
Again, the furry cons are very LGBTQ friendly, which does mean that there are a large number of people who are attracted to me as opposed to you.
Yeah, which I like. It's great.
Yeah, stop trying to pimp me out of the furries. I've told you about this.
Damn it.
For the record, if you want to come up and flirt with me, you are very welcome to. I don't swing that way. I am not going to be offended.
Yep. And if you want to try anyway, I mean, if you want to break him,
No.
Consent is important.
Consent matters, kids.
But mostly mine, not yours.
Ugh.
That was that borderline?
That was a little borderline. It's fine. I'm not offended.
I know. I do need to tell the audience that, I'm joking with him in a way that is acceptable for us to joke between each other because we know each other extremely well.
Yes.
His consent is just as important as mine.
Yes.
Sorry, that's something I would normally say to you off air, where no one else has to worry about that.
Exactly. But yeah, again, I am not offended by people flirting with me, for the record. It's
neither am I.
I get it.
Do we need to talk about this anymore?
No,
okay.
But we probably will. So, anyway.
So that was the last thing we did that day.
Yes. And at that point, it was 12:30 in the morning.
So we went back to the Airbnb.
Yep. And collapsed.
Yep. I was still high.
Yep. And I'd had enough food throughout the day that we did not even bother stopping off anywhere to get food.
You didn't want to get one of those strawberry lemonades, though. Maybe we'll find a Popeyes nearby so you can get one.
Yeah, we passed one in Columbus. But I don't know where the nearest one is because I had one of the strawberry lemonades. Actually, I had 2 of the strawberry lemonades because your meal came with one as well, and you didn't want to drink it, which was fine. They were pretty good. I like them. Part of the issue is around this time of year, I've discovered I get a bit of a smoothie craving. It's not as bad this year as it was last year. Last year it was real bad.
There's one off this exit if you want to go.
Which exit?
This exit.
126.
Yeah.
Might be the easiest option for dinner tonight. Okay, that'll work. I can probably have to reheat it when we get home, but anyway. So yeah, we can do that, and then I'll just pause the recording when we hit
it's right off the highway on the right.
Cool. That'll work. So yeah, we are apparently... I am sneezing, and then we are apparently stopping off to grab some Popeyes for dinner.
So yeah, if you want to pause the recording, we finished with Saturdays. We can start up with Sunday next time.
Again, it's easier to pause once we actually stop, just from a safety standpoint.
That was trying to be your cue to pause the recording.
I know. As we have pointed out, we are not good at this. But yeah, so so we went back to the Airbnb, we collapsed, and here's the thing. What time were we planning on getting up in the morning?
Oh, 7:30.
Yeah.
We did push it back to 8, and we got there on time-ish.
Yeah, I still woke up at 7:30. In fact, I woke up before then because, again,
That's not my fault.
No, it's not. Because, again, I had a hard time sleeping.
It is attached to that, travel station, but it'll probably be fine.
It'll be fine.
There's also an Espero there.
You mean a Sbarro?
I don't know how to actually pronounce that, because I don't think I've ever heard it say it out loud.
I've only ever heard it pronounced Sbarro.
Okay.
But... Yeah, there it is. I don't know if it's got a drive-through. I might have to physically go inside, which will be annoying. But oh well.
You're the one who said you wanted Popeyes.
Yeah. I'm perfectly happy going inside.
Will you at least pause?
Yes, I will pause the recording once we pull up.
This is not good content.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's accurate content.
You could cut this section out.
I could, but I'm way too lazy to do that.
Maybe I'm not going to timestamp it because I can't understand the sound of my own voice. We're here.
We are here. So I'm pulling into a fast food place. I am going to run in and grab some food.
Cool. I'm going to read more about like kids not getting murdered yet because I'm still not to that point in the book.
And we're back.
We're back.
Also, just to be old man yells at cloud for a second. Wow, did it take a while to get the fast food there?
But it was seconds for you, thanks to the marvelousness of technology.
Ooh. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get on to Sunday.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the vamping we had to do because somebody wouldn't.
Again, there's a limit to how many buttons I can push while I'm.
You could have let
driving.
me push them, but you say I mess it up.
No, I don't.
Oh, that's fair.
You're welcome to push the buttons yourself. You just don't know how to operate an iPhone despite owning one for like the past decade.
Well, that's because my iPhone is 10 years old. It's basically not an iPhone at this point. It's mostly an antique.
This is true.
Okay.
Also, it's got noticeably darker since I went in there.
Well, yeah, the sun's setting.
So, anywho.
So the first thing we went to is the Impossible Quiz Show with Spike Pap, which we were slightly late to, but only slightly.
Yeah, like a couple of minutes.
Mostly because it was raining, and we had to, like, maneuver the car a bit.
Yeah, I had to, like, drop you off at the entrance, and then, yeah. Like, again, nothing major. No. You know, and this was not a busy room. And I'm going to say right off the bat, this was a very well done panel that was screwed over by its time slot.
Yeah, I think it's just... But that's the thing, is, like, you do need panels at this time, and I'm glad they have them at this time, so I'm not going to do stuff or criticize it too much. This was basically a game show panel where, like, I do like that basically anyone can participate because they had, like, 20 seats in the front row. I think there was never more than 5 rounds, but basically each round is a trivia question with a right answer, a wrong answer, and an impossible answer.
Yep.
And the impossible answer is, like the example they gave was, what U.S. city is the capital? And the answer is Washington, D.C. Another city in the U.S. would be something like Atlanta. And then London would be an impossible answer since it's not a city in the U.S. at all.
Yeah. So again, relatively simple format. Everybody was given basically just big laminated sheets of paper that said A, B, or C on them. So you just held up what you thought the correct answer was. You know, for every given question. And if you hit... You know, if you got a right answer, you got a point. If you got a wrong answer, nothing. And if you hit the impossible answer, you were out for that round.
Yeah.
I think theoretically you were meant to be completely out for the game,
but there weren't enough people to play, so we just kind of kept going back. And this because it had a sudden death mechanic, which can be a trigger point for me. This probably wouldn't have been a game I would have like played as opposed to watch had it not been for.
It was screwed over by the time slot, so like
I felt the need to help. So, which I think. Eventually, because you did that round, and then the top 3 people went into like a final round to face off, which we somehow got the 3rd spot for that.
Yeah, so specifically, you went up for so the way it basically worked is the person who was leading each round got to go up and do like a special challenge board.
Yep.
Where there were 9 answers presented. You got given the first half of the question. And at that point, you basically had to pick the impossible answers based on the first half of the question. So, for example, one of them was on birds. And, you know, it was which state bird was the first half of the question. So you basically had to go, okay, that's not a state bird, so that must be an impossible answer. Like, correct, that's an impossible one. And so on and so forth. And then once you'd had 5 guesses of what were the impossible answers, you would be given the second half of the question. You had to actually find the right answer out of what remained. And the person running this also said at that stage, for each impossible answer you found, he would donate $10 to the charity.
Yep.
Which was cute.
It was. It was a really nice way to run money for charity. I was proud because I found 4 impossible answers in my round because we wind up going last. We were like basically tied because we knew the answers to all the questions.
Yep.
I think you just kind of mostly just let me go up.
No, you did get it before I did.
That's
but...
true. And then for the final round, we did kind of cheap because I think you knew the final answer and I didn't. So you just paid $10 to the charity just so you could tell me the answer. Because how it works is like in the final round, you guess the impossible answers, and that does rule out answers for the like question.
Yeah.
After you rule them out, and then you ask or answer the question, which is one of the remaining answers on the board.
Yeah. So specifically, this one was related to the theme of the con, so it was D&D themed. So it was basically a list of monsters. So which of these D&D monsters? So you basically had to find the 5 that weren't D&D monsters. You got 4 of them right.
Yeah.
Well, you found the 4 that weren't D&D monsters, or 4 of the 5 that weren't D&D monsters, and then the question was. It was something like go to join the mother brain when they die.
Yeah, or something like that. And you knew the answer, and I didn't for sure. So you just paid $10 just to tell me the answer, just so I could keep playing, just so I didn't have to deal with another sudden death mechanic. Mm-hmm. Which is fine.
Yeah, I basically, you were just like, do you know what it is? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I do.
And then I just didn't want the pressure because I didn't know what it was. I did pick out 4 of the wrong answers, though, which was the best anyone had done. And there were only 5 wrong answers, so. Yep. Including knowing something was a drug that I had no idea was a drug. I'm like, that sounds like a drug. That is a drug.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Which, again, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, I knew what the answer was. It was Ethelid.
Mm-hmm.
And...
So you just paid $10.
I paid $10.
Which confused the host, but he was happy after we paid $10.
Yep,
or they were. I'm not sure if they're pronouns. I think they're he, him, but I'm going to guess they, them.
Yeah, but, I helped to cheat a little bit. He was like, I'm not sure if we should allow that. I'm like, how about I pay $10 to the charity to allow that? I was like, okay.
Yep.
Cool. I checked my wallet. I was out of cash, but fortunately, the finance person was in the room and was like, you have a card? And I'm like, sweet, that will work. Yep, paid $10 to the charity to help you cheat, which fair.
Yeah, and then I had to do the final round, which I at that point I was like saying I kind of wish I just put you on the stage and not me at this point, which I kind of thought for the rest of the game. To be honest, I had fun though.
Yeah.
Because it is a little bit pressurizing. Because it was one where like if you get an answer right, you get a point, or like you take away 2 points from your opponent, and you take away. Like, everyone starts with 10 points, and you basically take away points till somebody runs out of points,
Till somebody's the only person left standing.
Yeah. Which was me, somehow. I was not expecting that.
Yep. Which meant you also got to play the bonus round at the end.
Which, again, that was even more...
stressful, yeah.
Well, it's just like one of those things where, like, if the game was, like, for a stuffed animal, or, like, a handshake, which is what most comm games are for, or, like, $10 in the dealer's hall, I wouldn't have cared all that much, to be honest.
Yep.
But it was like, oh, you get to donate $500 to this charity if you get the answers. Like, that's just pressurizing, okay?
Yeah, the host did basically say if you got all 3 answers right in the last round, then he'd donate $500 to the charity. And if you hit any of the impossible answers in the last round, then, he'd half the amount of money that was supposedly going to the charity. I was like, wow, that's pressure.
Yeah, and I'm like, great. Like, if I miss this somehow, I'm going to have to pay, like, whatever. Because I think we were up to, like, $120 at that point. I'm like...
Just 100.
Yeah, and I was like, well, he obviously would have had to, like, pay the $50 to give that money back to the charity. Because I would have felt bad if we didn't.
Yep.
Thankfully, it was a question about, like, European countries. I didn't get all 3 of them correct, but I at least knew which countries were in Europe.
Yep.
So I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, because it was on, like, countries in the EU... in the European continent that aren't members of the EU.
Which you didn't even know.
Nope.
So I probably, if I had a bit more time and wasn't like so stressed about like just making sure I didn't pick countries that weren't in the EU because I was really trying to privilege that, or were like verified in Europe, then I would have been better at it. So, but I got 1 that was correct, so that was good. And they were all in Europe. So basically,
you did not pick any of the 3 that were actually in Africa.
Yeah, so I didn't actually do anything. And people that compliment me afterwards, I think just look, because I clearly looked nervous on stage, just because when it's money for charity, it's a little bit higher stakes for me.
Yeah.
But I was proud of how I did.
You did great.
And yeah, I was a come from behind victory, I think mostly because, like, particularly when there's, like, mechanics where you can lose points, I tend to, like, be the type of person who wants to be really sure I know the answer, whereas other people I think are fine with the kind of like, I have a 50% idea that this is correct type answer.
I'm going to buzz in and hope for the best.
Which I don't tend to do as much. So I might be the type of person who would jump into a hole. But it was fun. It was well designed. I do think that particular game could benefit from a different time slot, because stuff like Password Plus or Pyramid, which Iggy does, not that you should give Iggy a worse time slot, those are games that can play with fewer people, so I think having them at like less prime time slots would be fine, whereas this game I think would benefit more from a prime time slot.
Yes, this one ideally needed more people in the room, and 9 a.m. on a Sunday was not the best time slot for it. Like, that's not on any one specific person. That's not any individual's fault. It's just kind of a fact.
So after that, we did Iggy's Password Plus,
Yep.
which I think we reviewed before. It's pretty much the same show every time we review it. It's always great. It's always fun.
Yep, he's very good at making it on the con theme, as we mentioned previously. This one we didn't volunteer to take part in because we took part in...
we took part in other
Pyramid.
stuff, and Iggy likes to try to get everyone on stage, and he had enough volunteers for this.
We basically said, if at any point, the number of volunteers ran dry, then we'd stick our hands up. They didn't.
Which was fine. It's still incredibly entertaining from the audience. They have two people who kind of know how to play the game on stage. In this case, it was Pan, Dez, and Yabe. Mm-hmm. And both of them were great contestants. I enjoyed one of the clues was Flash. And everything was con-themed. And it's fun from the audience just to figure out the clues and what clues you would give. So, not really any notes by this. We've done this, I think, like 4 or 5 times now. It's always fantastic. I love Iggy's game shows.
Yeah. Like, there are a few people we've seen at multiple cons who are just massive fans of like old game shows, who really love running them and who really they have a passion for them that they love passing on to the audience. Iggy is one of those people.
Yeah.
And even if you've seen the particular game show format before, it's still a lot of fun to see over and over again, because again, it's going to be a different game every time.
So it's just cozy and fun, and I'm somebody who, I don't talk about my childhood a lot during this con or during this podcast, but if you've been listening to episodes, you can probably piece together that it wasn't the best childhood in the world. And game shows, because I was home a lot of the time, I watched a lot of them, and they were just kind of a cozy comfort thing for me. And like, it's pretty awesome as an adult to be able to like play them now in a way that I want to. Because I'll be honest, I never want to go on an actual game show where there's stakes. That's pressurizing and sounds miserable. But playing it at a con for like no stakes is great and fun.
Yep.
Some of them don't work. Like Deal or No Deal is basically pointless to play when there's no stakes, but most other stuff does.
Pointless, on the other hand, is a really good game show.
It would, but that takes way too much setup.
Yeah. I would love to see Pointless done at a con one day, but again, it's another one that requires a survey of 100 people.
And you also have to have people who don't cheat and look up answers, so.
Doesn't help with Pointless.
I mean, like, for the survey taking, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, I'm not going to explain how Pointless works because it's going to take too long, but the survey asked you, like, name all the, like, people who were in Lord of the Rings that you know, or all the people in, like, Game of Thrones that you know.
Yep.
And you just write down all of them. But if you cheat by looking up the obscure answers, it ruins the game. So, anyway.
Because, again, the entire point of Pointless is to find the obscurest answer that is also correct.
Yes.
But anyway.
So, after that, we were asked to clear the room to set up for nothing.
Yep.
That's just the title of the event, Nothing.
Yeah, the panel was called Nothing.
By Dr. Snapper.
Yeah, this confused the bejesus out of us when we saw it on the schedule.
Yeah, we had to go to it just because we were so confused by it.
Yep.
I will read the description, because we did go to it, and it's still impossible to describe.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was quite literally nothing. I don't really know what else to say about it. Back again for the second year. Dr. Snapper stares at a wall while the audience tries to get her to break her concentration. No planning, no script, nothing but fun. It was also not that. It was pretty much just kind of nothing.
Yeah, it was very weird.
You're the describey person.
Oh, great. So, again, we went in, we sat down, and, eventually the host came out, sat behind the desk.
They had an assistant, I think.
Yep.
Or at least...
Who was mostly there to take charity money.
Yeah.
And then, they sort of implied that you might want to look around the room for some coins. And then, people found the coins and
they turned the coins in, and then that was the only, I think, planned event. And then
they were told that those coins meant nothing.
Yeah. The coins meant nothing, and then they were going to continue to do nothing for a while that involved them doing nothing.
A
It's
bunch
really,
of people went and stared at static that was on the screens.
yeah, I don't know.
I think they were trying to determine if there was a hidden message inside it.
So the thing is, we learned at this panel, just because they referenced it, that nothing is a thing that happens at other furry cons that is done by other people who also do this. I don't.
I'm unclear if it's other people or if it's just this person
I
has done it
don't
amongst
know.
other cons.
So anyway, that's that. I can't even review that. That is the extent to which we can review that, okay?
Yeah.
It's weird.
It had a 2-hour time slot.
I don't think it needed a 2-hour time slot. The host admitted it didn't really. Although they were still going when we walked back later. Because after the coin thing was done, we stayed for a few minutes. We embraced this as a time period where we could stay at our phone and just observe what everyone in the room was doing. Because we had no idea what was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, this was very confusing.
It was quite confusing. I don't know if we were like more confused than the people who've been at it before. I can't even really criticize it beyond maybe give it a shorter time slot because I don't know what it was supposed to be.
I don't think anybody knows what it's supposed to be. I think that's the joke.
Yep. It's a long commitment to a joke if it's 2 hours, though. Again, if this is your thing and you just like comically absurd humor and being in a room with a bunch of people creating entertainment in your personas, it seems like a great event.
Go for it. Have fun. There was one person who, again, full fursuit, staring at a static screen, who then just turned around and stared at the audience. And of course, because they were in a full fursuit, deadpan stare.
Yep.
That was wigging me out, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's pretty much just giant performance art. I don't know what else to call it. I would go again, just mostly out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
You do have to kind of embrace the nothing, though, and I don't think we were quite ready to embrace the nothing, so we did not stay for the full 2 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, at that point we headed over to the, was that the roll-off we went to after that?
We went to the dice rolling competition, which is what it sounds like. It themed for this year because it's a con theme is D&D, and I've seen this at other cons. It's a room where you roll d20s against other people to determine who has the most dominant d20.
Yep.
And that one doesn't get set to dice jail.
Yep. And whoever wins it gets a free badge to next year, according to the event.
Yeah, I don't know if that actually happened,
yeah,
but
they
didn't
said mention it. But,
I don't know. Apparently, to enter, you did have to do like some quest thing that was on Furry social media. I will say this about Furry cons: they do have a lot of quests that are exclusively on Furry social media, which I want to emphasize. I have no idea how to operate, and I've been trying to learn for 6 months.
Yeah.
You may think I'm dumb, but it's confusing and it's hard to do it without accidentally coming across stuff you don't want to come across. Okay? That's just it.
Yeah, Furry social media occasionally is extremely not safe for work.
Yeah. And it's also just like they have 3 different apps, and none of them like talk. It's just hard, okay? I don't understand how to do it. I didn't understand how to do this quest. And in fairness, we went into that room assuming that we weren't going to like participate anyway. Like, I wouldn't have participated generally because I have that like luck trigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
I might have made you participate if it was just straight up rolling dice, but I don't think any of us cared terribly much. We were just there to watch.
Which again, we did initially get told we would have to leave. Because they basically said if you didn't have a ticket and you had to acquire the tickets by doing whatever the heck the quest was, then there wasn't going to be enough physical room in the building. Or
keep in mind they were in panel room 2, which was a small panel room.
Yeah, and they apparently gave out 100 tickets.
Yeah, which is one of those things that is a bit tricky because this was a quest thing and they ran out of tickets. They did say during for people who completed the quest on Saturday. And they gave it 100 tickets. That does mean like a decent chunk of those people aren't showing up. I would say we had maybe a 40% turnout rate.
If that. We didn't have 40 people competing.
Yeah. So that is something for which if you want like a big dice tournament that's like 100 people, which you easily could have done because this had an hour time slot and I think lasted
20 minutes.
Yeah. You would need a bigger room, and I think you just need the barrier for entry to be show up and have dice.
Yeah.
So that might be like, again, I do like that these cons do quests. And I think quests can be fun. It's just kind of pairing that with having to show up at a specific place at a specific time, particularly on a Sunday, is kind of hard for some people. Yeah. So, because I think some people probably committed the quest and weren't even planning to be here on Sunday, which is fine, but Yeah. I do think if you want just a giant dice roll-off, it might be better to not pair that with a quest.
Maybe. Hard to tell.
Again, that's it. It's still everyone seemed to have a great time. I'm not really bitter we didn't get to participate because I didn't want to anyway. I'm just glad we got to watch.
Yes.
The room was overcrowded, but that was just kind of inevitable.
Yeah. Again, I think it's just a case of panel rooms 2, 3, and 4. I think there isn't a solve for it, unfortunately, but yeah, they were definitely overcrowded most of the weekend.
The thing about dice, though, is they do tell a story, so watching a dice roll up is kind of fun, because the narrative is just happening based on how the dice roll.
Yeah, watching that guy who,
rolled 2 nat 20s in a row,
yeah,
then get out the next round by rolling like a 3 was...
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Just the one guy, picking up his dice at the end and yelling at it, you know what you did, you're going to dice jail for this. Because he made it through like 3 or 4 roll-offs. And then it let him down.
And I know Sigma's partner beat Sigma in their round, and then they showed up late and got all the way to second place, which is great. And they were fair about it. Like, they made everyone roll equal numbers of time. So if they rolled up late, showed up late, they had to complete a number of rounds to continue to play.
Yes. Which frequently involved them rolling off against the host.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's just fun to be in a room rolling dice. Like, in terms of silly fun, this was pretty good. Probably needed a different room, and maybe needed less complex rolls depending on what your flavor is.
Yeah, I think that's about the level I'm at with it.
So after that, we did the charity auction.
Yep. So this was kind of the big thing today, because charity auctions at Fur Cons are usually... So here's the thing. Furries really like raising money for their charity,
yep.
And furries are suspiciously wealthy. Which means occasionally they will bid a lot of money on very specific things.
Mm-hmm.
So they had all the various items up on the stage so you could have a look at them beforehand. And then this was done in your standard charity auction format. So this was, we'll start bidding at $5, shout out what you're prepared to pay for it. Goes until there's nobody left shouting, and then they'll basically say, I'm currently at $50. Going once, going twice, sold. Nice and simple and straightforward. Then it was the old give us your badge number so that they can link it, and then everybody paid at the end.
Yep.
Nice, simple, straightforward. Good Lord, that displays a beast.
Yeah, for most Fur Cons, the big ticket items typically fursuits. For this, it was a giant displacer beast, I think custom made plush. That was very cool looking.
Yeah.
We were thinking about bidding on it. Our price point was like shot out pretty immediately, which is fair.
We basically said $200 to $300.
Yeah, it went for $2,200, which I'm not remotely like. We knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, the bidding went 100, 200,
500,
500, and at that point we were like, well, we're out.
Yep. And again, we mostly go because we enjoy looking at the items and the camaraderie of it. And they had like GIFs on the screen when everyone was saying 69 and stuff like that.
Because as we've mentioned in the past, I can't remember, was it MCFC?
Yeah.
Was commenting on the fact that their accountant had to explain they had to explain to their accountant so they could explain to the IRS why so many things in the charity auction sold for either $69 or $420.
Or 621. That comes up a lot.
Or $621.
Now, granted, you do have to get more digits to get that one, so it's a little bit less common, but it still happens a bunch.
Yep. And the answer is because furries think it's funny.
Yeah. And I did appreciate, the charity auction has just completely bizarre stuff. There was a children's Hulk Hogan costume or something like that.
You're thinking of the Chia Pet that was...
no, there was a Chia Pet that was Hulk Hogan, and there was a children's costume that was...
one of the Dukes of Hazzard.
That looked like Donald Trump.
Yes. That was actively from the 70s.
Yes.
There was some very weird stuff in this one.
Which is why I like going. And I also actually did prefer...
The extremely cursed Pee Wee Herman doll.
Yeah. That had a string in the back that mostly just made it wheeze.
Yeah. That's definitely going to murder the person who bought it in their sleep.
Okay, this is why we go. It's just you get to see so much random stuff. And I also actually did prefer this to the Anthrocon auction, just because that one basically only had big ticket items. This one had one big ticket item, and the rest was just small stuff that if you just wanted to make a donation to charity and get a weird thing, you could.
Yep.
I kind of regret a little bit you didn't bid more for the Warhammer stuff, but I think they went to a good home.
Again, I do have to explain that meme to you.
Okay. Don't do it now.
I'm not going to do it now. I will explain it to you once we finish the podcast.
Okay.
Before we get home.
Okay, so that was the charity auction. I really hope we're going to do this before we get home.
Again, we've still got 20 minutes.
Okay.
18 minutes according to the sound.
This is a 3.5-hour episode of this.
Yeah.
Great. So, do you have anything else you want to say about the charity auction other than it was awesome?
I don't think so. Like, again, it was well run. Everybody was having a good time. The various big ticket items, raised a lot of money for the charity, and that's basically what you want out of a charity auction.
Yeah, I will say those like bejeweled art prints that one person does. Like, I think I might want to. Yeah, I might want to get one someday when we have a house.
Yep. Some of them are very, very pretty.
Yes.
She was actually sitting behind us.
Yeah, we complimented her quite a bit.
Yeah.
So after that, we said our goodbyes to a couple people, like Sigma, a couple
Sigma,
people in there on the
couple
con generally. A couple people saw us saying goodbye to people, and then came up to us to say goodbye, which was also awesome.
That was really sweet.
So
people seem to like us. It's confusing and weird as a British person. So yeah.
So we'll briefly talk about the stuff we didn't do. Sorry for kind of rushing through the ending a little bit.
Again, I wasn't actually expecting this episode to take us all the way home.
I told you that it was going to.
Yeah.
So we did not stay for closing, mostly because we wanted to get home, and it's already like 9, and we want to get back to our dog.
Yep.
Or Dead Dog Karaoke. Fur cons in general will have dances, which are cool. We don't tend to go to them because the loud dances tend to be a lot of like loud, high-tempo music that we don't tend to like that much. They do have sensory dances, which are, I think, a little bit softer stuff if that's more your speed.
Yep.
But we didn't. We were doing other stuff then too.
Yep.
There's the fursuit dance competition. I think there were 2. We don't tend to go to those mostly because it's hard to see.
Yeah.
But they are fun.
Yeah. Basically, if you don't get a seat in the front row, you're not going to see that much. And those are super, super popular. So have fun queuing if you want a seat in the front row.
There was the Iron Claw stuff. I still am a bit confused on what exactly Iron Claw is. I think it's a very just stuff you can do throughout the con. That's a non-descriptor. You thieves. You're always stealing things.
You thieves, always taking things that don't belong to you.
That was from the movie.
I love that one. Like, so much of the Dungeons & Dragons movie 2000 reads like the first draft of a script that hadn't been properly finished yet. There's so much stuff that sounds like it's placeholder dialogue. It's great.
So Iron Claw in this context, because Iron Claw can mean quite a few different things in the furry fandom, in this case is an anthropomorphic RPG series that you can play throughout the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There was various meetups for different types of furs, until emotional support panel that was run by Sigma. And I will shout out, the one time I've been to that panel by Sigma, they did an amazing job running it, like fantastic.
Yep.
It was before we were there, though, so we didn't attend it. And it's also, like, we're, I think, thankfully in a place in our lives where we don't really need a panel like that, but I'm glad it exists for people who do.
Yes, I would agree. And as I say, we have seen Sigma do this panel. Or
they are fantastic at it.
They're like really dang good at it. Yeah.
The Headless Lounge was there, as we talked about. There's various panels on fursuiting, as you would expect. Yep. Tabletop games. Meet the guest of honor, meet the DJs, pen and sticker swap, plushie swap.
Various other bits and bobs.
Playing with string, which I'm pretty sure. It's a panel about making stuff out of yarn.
Oh, okay.
Although knowing furries, if it was just a room with string that people could play in, like that honestly would just be a panel at one of these cons.
Yeah.
Ranking persona species, creating personas. Basic stuff you would think of. As mentioned, I can't possibly name everything. There was an Artemis Bridge simulator, though, and if that person is still listening to this podcast, we're going to mention it.
Yes, there's an Artemis Bridge simulator here. And if you've listened to our first episode, you'll know why we need to shout that out. Because we forgot to do it once, and that person actively contacted us.
Twice.
Multiple times.
And kept listening to this episode. It might still be listening now. Who knows?
But yeah. And again, if you've not been to an Artemis Bridge simulator, we talk about that in our Buckeye Game Fest episode. Go listen to that one.
Yeah. Or just look it up.
Yeah.
So that's the basics of what was there.
Yep. Top con moments.
Top con moments. I think it's your turn to go first. You're probably going to take mine.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I'm actually going to go with question this.
Ooh, okay.
Like, I had a lot of fun doing that. And again, it was just very nice to be asked to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also love question this. Honestly, that would have been one of my top. It was only the one I was going to go with first, but it probably would have been my second. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think my first is going to be?
I'm assuming it's probably improvisation.
Okay. for the record, these aren't in any order. These are just like in like the order we think of them.
Yeah,
They're not like ranked or anything.
No, they're not ranked.
But that wasn't the one I was going to go for first, just because that one was great, but I expected it to be great. At least when we were asked to do it, I did. The one that I didn't expect to be great, but was Fursuit Chess. Like that was a blast. I was laughing so hard. It was just delightful chaos, and it raised so much money for charity. Like I expect the charity auction to raise a bunch of money for charity. I didn't expect that to raise a bunch of money for charity.
I'm actually gonna go with Task Senpai, and specifically the moment when we were in that audience that just broke me, which was specifically when somebody who was told they needed to paint a canvas moved the canvas and painted the palette paper. That broke me because I realized what it was he was. Because initially I was like, "Oh God, are they painting the table? Wait, is that a piece of palette? Oh my God, that's a piece of palette paper." So yeah, that just broke me. I love the fact that they freely admitted the editor later admitted that with hindsight he kind of regrets the fact that
he told him he was doing it
wrong. Alex told him he was doing it wrong because it would have been so funny to pull that out on stage.
He just took it. Yeah, I think he took pity on them. Now I will take improv. It was fantastic. I've been wanting to do that for a while. I'm really proud of us for doing it, and it meant so much to be asked.
And then I'm gonna cheat and just say so many like small little interactions this weekend.
That's
like,
cheating.
Yeah, it is. Shut up. Just again,
you're not even the last person to go. That needs to be like the last thing.
So yeah, just like little things like some of the people we were doing improv with, who again it was their first time doing improv. I think it might have been their first time doing one of these cons, and just having the opportunity to see them throughout the weekend and just like have little conversations with them and just like, it was just really sweet and fun. I love those little moments and interactions at cons that you don't really get anywhere else.
So fine, I get 2 more since you pulled that trick.
Okay, have fun.
I want to give 2 more. So one is definitely MST3K was great. I had a blast. I was laughing so hard.
Let blood rain from the sky.
And I will also say I forget the name of the panel. I'm going to freaking pull it up again. But the IFC lore panel. That was a lot of fun too.
That's fair. So, ranking?
I don't even know how to rank this one. As mentioned before, our ranking system is stupid because we tried to do an actual ranking system before we started this podcast and realized that seemed mean, and also it's impossible to compare certain cons to each other. So we now have a ranking system of who we go back, which is entirely subjective to us.
Yep.
Because where we live and our jobs are completely different from yours, so it's a completely useless ranking system, really.
Exactly, but it's great. So, as we pointed out, would we go back? Depends on a whole bunch of different factors.
Yeah.
And this is one that it's a drive.
It's a drive. It's at a really inconvenient time of year, depending on what weekend it is.
Yes, because the reason we didn't go last year was, as we mentioned, it was literally the weekend right before classes started up again.
And if
you can't be away that weekend.
That's just one of those things. Like if it is scheduled the weekend classes start next year, I can't go back. Like it's not a question of if I want to or not.
Yeah.
That said, if I am able, I do think it's worth the drive.
I think so. I would agree. And that is a timing issue, not an issue on the con itself, but like I had a really great time this weekend. It was a lot of fun. It was very silly. It was
pretty much exactly what I needed before the school started. And like it's really nice to just have this like nice con high before I have to dip my toes back into academic real life. And I am also really sad that this is likely going to be our last Fur Con of the year.
Yeah.
Just because there's not anything else in our immediate area that really works for us for quite a while.
But, we will, does that mean the next one's probably going to be next year's MCFC?
Probably, the one in Wisconsin, which I think is like Fur Squared or something like that. They all have really similar names, and I am sorry.
Pretty sure that's the one Alkali founded, isn't it?
I thought he founded MC or MF. That one.
I don't know.
Midwest Fur Fest. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because he's Chicago based, but Milwaukee's close to Chicago.
Who knows?
But the point is that one is like a 7-hour drive and a big commitment. So I don't know. So it probably will be MCFC, which is not until like March.
Yep.
So I am pretty sad about that fact. We might cave and go to one in between then if something pops up. But
that's going to be dependent on a lot of factors, because as we've mentioned before, once the fall semester starts up again, it is going to limit us a fair bit, just in terms of because whereas in the spring semester you were teaching a Tuesday, Thursday, you're now teaching a Monday, Wednesday, Friday again.
Yeah, which I kind of regret doing, but
Yeah. And again, it's also harder for me to get away.
Mm-hmm.
I've only got so many vacation days. Stupid job change. Anyway, this is not me ranting about how much my current, how much the university ticked me off when they changed my job on me.
Podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's our very short and to the point and not at all rambly thoughts on IFC, Indy Fur Con.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did. Or I'm glad we went. Blah.
So am I.
Yeah. It was a really fantastic weekend. Thank you for everyone who reached out to us, and you guys are fantastic people.
You are.
Or furries. I don't want to offend you by saying people.
I don't. Actually, I have no idea.
I have no idea either. Well, I think human and people might be different.
Yeah, that feels kind of. You are really fantastic sentient beings. Let's go with that. That seems incredibly broad and probably not offensive, unless some of you identify as non-sentient. I don't know.
Well, you can't. Never mind. You did that on purpose.
Of course I did that on purpose.
You're such a spotted Richard.
That I am. Yeah, if you still don't know why that's funny, Google British desserts. You'll figure it out.
It took Iggy way too long to figure out why that was funny.
Yep. Again, I love the fact you warned me that you've already come up with a bunch more offensive ones for next year.
Yeah, well, the problem is we don't have enough cons to use them. So.
Yep. So yeah.
As a reminder, if you're at all listening to this and considering donating your kidney, it's worth exploring. If that's not something you're able to do, the next best thing you can do is just spread the message to the people.
Just tell everybody you know. Bother your friends with it. Yeah. Attach the QR code to a carrier pigeon, whatever you've got. Go nuts. But yeah.
So we'll see you next week for a much shorter episode. And we'll be amazed if somehow this one day steampunk festival can be 3.5 hours long.
I mean, I wouldn't rule us out.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, thank you all very much for listening. Thank you everybody who spoke to us this weekend. Thank
you for making the last full weekend of the summer a fantastic one.
So yeah, thank you very much, and maybe we'll see you next week at, what's it even called?
Bourbon. I think it's just Northeast Ohio Steampunk Festival or something. We'll fix it in the show thing when it's that time.
Yeah.
Again, this is an outdoor festival that we're only going to for one day. It's not going to be as involved an episode. We might report back on our rabbit search if we have good news to report there.
Yeah. Yeah, we may be getting rabbits.
Yes, and we do mean actual rabbits, not like personas.
Yeah, no, we are currently in the process of adopting some rabbits. We just need to meet the correct rabbits that vibe with us, and we've got an appointment to do that next Saturday, so yay. So, thank you all very much for listening, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.